Chapter 1090. By the time she returned to the cave, Leah had just served the piping hot meal on the table. Meanwhile, Oratin was using his life to act out the longing for her with paralysis. Gu Mingming felt that Oratin had never looked forward to seeing her so much in his life. Haha, Gu Mingming could not compare to a bowl of meat. Barit sat quietly at the dining table. That was the spot he had sat at in the afternoon. For some reason, that seat seemed to belong to him. He just wanted to guard it and not let anyone else sit there. Ian leaned against a tree with his arms crossed, still looking at Gu Mingming with a sickly look. Gu Mingming paused when she walked past him and asked, "You have something to tell me too, right? Why? Is your sister going to give birth too?" Ian rolled his eyes at Gu Mingming. He wanted to rebuke her, but held himself back because of Wabi-Eye beside her. He just said, "Mandy confessed to me." Mandy was one of the 16 valued females brought back from the beauty pageant. She was crowned the first beauty of the beast world by Gu Mingming because she had recruited the most warriors to enter St. Nazir at the same time. Gu Mingming thought about it. It seemed that ever since she told everyone the story of the flying bird and the fish, Mandy had been especially attentive towards Ian. She was sure that the flying bird in the story was Ian. She did not know whether it was her maternal instincts overflowing or she had a special desire to conquer males who had been hurt in love. Anyway, this Mandy had been trying to please Ian for a long time. Ian did not say anything. Neither did he reject nor accept. But he had never given other females other than Mandy the chance to please him. So Gu Mingming was not surprised. She just nodded and said, "You intend to mate with her?" Ian remained silent for a moment before replying, "If you don't object, I will mate with her. After all, I have already reached the peak of 3rd level. If I want to break through, I have to mate with her." Gu Mingming was taken aback for a moment. She snorted and said, "Scumbag." Gu Mingming thought that only the Snake King Valley would use females as a tool to level up. Ian chuckled and said, "I told Mandy that this is the reason why I am willing to mate with her." She agreed to it herself. Gu Mingming looked at Ian with narrowed eyes for a while, then patted his shoulder and said, "Why do you have to do this just like him? Do you have to make it sound so official and hide your emotions behind your motive? Why bother? At that time, if she really misunderstands you, won't you be the one who will be sad?" The tip of Ian's ear was stained with a suspicious red. He turned his face to the side and said, "I don't understand what you're saying." Gu Mingming did not expose him. She just swung her arms back and forth and said, "It's all right if you don't understand what I am saying. You just need to know what you're doing." Mandy was a good girl. Although she was a little arrogant at times, she was considered very gentle and considerate compared to the other females in the beast world. If you really hurt her heart, you'll be the one regretting it. Gu Mingming did not need to mention how good Mandy was, but Ian himself knew it very well. It was just that he felt a little awkward in his heart. Tilting his head, Ian looked at Gu Mingming from the corner of his eyes. He was a little hesitant, but he still opened his mouth to ask, "Do you really agree to me mating?" Chapter 1091. Ian clenched his fists and took 8 deep breaths before barely stabilizing his emotions. Then, he said, "Did you forget that I was the one who formed the blood alliance with Leah? Once I mate, the blood alliance will be useless." Gu Mingming already knew about this long ago. Crossing her arms in front of her chest, Gu Mingming squinted at Ian and said, "You flirted with Mandy last year and delayed mating until this year. Just because of this?" Ian did not admit nor deny it. He just lowered his head and looked to the side. Although the bird tribe had always been arrogant, Ian was after all a hot-blooded male and did not have much resistance towards females. Moreover, Mandy was beautiful and passionate, so it was natural that he could not resist the temptation. It was just that Gu Mingming had been too busy for the past year and did not have the time to observe the emotional world of each of her friends. As a result, they had wasted so much time. Gu Mingming patted Ian's shoulder and said, "Didn't I tell you before? Our St. Nazir does not rely on the blood alliance to keep people, but on the hearts of others. If your heart is with me, I don't need to restrict you and you will stay. If your heart is not here, you will only try your best to escape even with the blood alliance. What's the point of that?" Ian looked at Gu Mingming and did not say a word. Gu Mingming had indeed told him these words in the past, but Ian had not met Mandy then, so he did not take it seriously. After that, Ian developed feelings for Mandy, but was not sure how sincere Gu Mingming's words were. Moreover, even though the Eagle Owl tribe had pledged allegiance to Saint Nazir and many of their tribesmen had mated with Saint Nazir's females, he was still carrying a blood oath. He was also worried that once he mated and broke the blood oath, would Gu Mingming suspect that the Eagle Owl tribe was disloyal? But now, it seemed that he had thought too much. Gu Mingming was much more broad-minded than him. Gu Mingming sat back at the table and ate a mouthful of the meat in her bowl. She sighed in satisfaction and said, "You are after all the leader of the Eagle Owl tribe. Your marriage must be held in a grand manner. It just so happens that Saint Nazir hasn't been lively for a long time. Let's use your name to celebrate. Let's all have some fun." Ian walked to Gu Mingming awkwardly and stood by the table to look at her. After a long while, he said, "The Eagle Owl tribe has ceased to exist in this world since 2 years ago. I'm also not some tribe leader." Pretentious. Gu Mingming clicked her tongue and did not reply. It was rare for Gu Mingming to say such things to him, but he did not have the urge to retaliate. He just lowered his head and said, "Gu Mingming, thank you." Gu Mingming chuckled. "Yeah, mate before winter. Don't drag it out for too long. By then, your status in the family will be lowered again." Ian gritted his teeth and said, Man will only accept me as her partner this year. My position in the family will not be much lower." Man. Gu Mingming looked at Ian meaningfully. Ian's ears turned even redder. He flapped his wings and said, "Since you don't have any objections, I'll go and tell Man. I won't disturb your meal." Gu Mingming waved her hands and said, "Bye-bye." After Ian flew away, only Gu Mingming's family of 3, Wabi-Ai, Oritin, and Barit, were left. Gu Mingming propped her chin on her hand and said thoughtfully, "The people around me seem to be getting lesser and lesser." Chapter 1092. Gu Mingming. Wabi-Ai stood up from the stone bench. He placed one hand on the table and leaned his upper body forward. He placed his other hand on Gu Mingming's shoulder and said with a troubled expression, "Winter is coming, and I don't have much time left to accompany you. Hurry up and do whatever you want to do, or else I won't be able to do it with you once I hibernate." You have to leave too." Yes, Wabi-Ai had to return to the Snake King Valley twice a year, during the winter and dry seasons. Once the snow sealed the mountain, Gu Mingming could only stay in the cave with Elvis and Leah for at least 2 to 3 months. During the first winter, she and Elvis had just become partners and were in their honeymoon period. Later on, Leah barged in, and the 3 of them stayed together in all sorts of awkward situations. Coupled with the fact that she was groggy due to her pregnancy, time flew by unknowingly. During the second winter, she went to solder because of Cole's scheme. Other than Elvis and Leah, there were still the 3 little ones by her side. Although she was worried that Chi Xian was always hanging out with Cole, they were still a lively family, and time passed quickly. This year, there was only her, Elvis, and Leah left. Gu Mingming lowered her head and chuckled. "In the past, I spent the entire year alone and didn't feel lonely. Now that I'm used to having many friends by my side, I can't get used to the sudden silence." Gu Mingming turned to look at Elvis and smiled dejectedly. "Hubby, am I too greedy?" Elvis's heart ached at the look of disappointment on her face. He kissed her brow gently. "Why don't we dig the underground of Saint Nazir too? Then you can find whoever you want to play with during winter, all right?" Gu Mingming shook her head. "Sandy is not around, and I don't have any friends to play with." "Then I'll ask someone to fetch her back to accompany you." Elvis felt bitter. He had schemed with Leah for so long before he finally got rid of the 4 little ones, and Sandy finally stopped fighting with him for his affections. But now he had to fetch her back with his own hands. TSK, Sandy was indeed his #1 love rival. He had to be wary of her. Gu Mingming shook her head. "Sandy has her own life. I can't always let her revolve around me." Upon hearing this, Elvis heaved a sigh of relief. Wabi-Ai cleared his throat and said, "How about I stay behind to accompany you this winter?" Gu Mingming pursed her lips and looked at Wabi-Ai in disdain. "You always sleep like a log every winter. Other than taking up space, you were useless. What's there to compensate? More importantly, hibernating outside the Snake King Valley was not safe for Wabi-Ai. Be it temperature, humidity, or other factors, they were all unknown. For animals, the unknown was equal to danger. Although Wabi-Ai was very powerful, Gu-Ming was unwilling to let him take such an unnecessary risk. Besides, you know that I hate snakes. I hate shit, and I hate snakes that look like shit. You have all three of them, and you still want to sleep in my cave for the whole winter. Aren't you afraid that I won't be able to control myself and make you into snake soup? Chapter 1093. Gu-Ming laughed dryly. Damn, you have reached a whole new level of self-deprecation. Respect, respect. Wabi-Ai lifted his chin and took it as a compliment. He mimicked Gu-Ming and cupped his fists. Well said, well said. After the hubbub, everyone dispersed. The next morning, Gu-Ming woke up early, which surprised Leah and Elvis. They circled the large stone basin like a baby and giggled for a long time before leaving the cave. Oriton had yet to return from his hunt. According to Gu-Ming's usual schedule, her breakfast would only start in another 2 hours or so. However, she had woken up early today, causing Oriton, who shared his meals with her, to be unprepared. Barit and Wabi-Ai were standing near the entrance of the cave. They were also surprised to see Gu-Ming come out so early. Barit didn't say a word, but Wabi-Ai looked up lazily. Why? You can't bear to see me leave? So you're making use of the time to get used to me? Gu-Ming didn't retort. She just chuckled. I have to order you around while you can still move. Wabi-Ai's eyes lit up the moment he heard that. He straightened his back and asked Gu-Ming, Who do I want to beat up? When do I go? Gu-Ming chuckled. Wabi-Ai was the most warlike person in this world, but it was rare for him to be so energetic. Gu-Ming didn't want to explain that he was overthinking. She just smiled and told Barit, Gather all the single males in the tribe and follow me out after breakfast. All right. Barit remembered that he had already given his life to Gu-Ming, so he didn't need to differentiate between right and wrong when it came to Gu-Ming's orders. He would do whatever she said. Wabi-Ai clicked his tongue. What's the point of gathering so many useless people? Isn't it enough to have me? Gu-Ming thought about it and smiled in a flattering manner. Then our great Wabi-Ai must be seen by everyone in the world. Wabi-Ai instantly felt a chill down his spine. He looked at Gu-Ming defensively. Are you trying to harm me? Gu-Ming nodded calmly. I want to turn you into snake slices and eat you. Wabi-Ai snorted in disdain. I'm afraid you'll die from overeating. While they were fooling around, Oriton had already returned from his hunt. Seeing that Gu-Ming had already woken up, he was first taken aback before his expression loosened. It was obvious that he was in a good mood. We can start eating early today. What a pleasant day. He still had a poker face, but Gu-Ming could almost see the colorful flowers blooming on top of his head spinning, as if he had activated the special effect of beautification. Holding her forehead, Gu-Ming felt that her cuteness might have gone awry. Elvis and Leah did not know what Gu-Ming wanted to do, but they were happy to see her full of energy. He had been worried that she would be depressed over Fei Rue's departure, Ian's mating, Wabi-Ai's hibernation, and Sandy's absence. Oriton was in a good mood because he had an early breakfast, because having an early breakfast meant that he could have an early lunch and then an early dinner. Wabi-Ai was also in a good mood because there was a fight to fight. The single males in the tribe were also very happy. They were inexplicably excited because they had the opportunity to do something for the great messenger. Chapter 1094. After that, there were many different versions of what happened in the beast world. The general direction was about how Gu-Ming led the people of Saint Nazaire in a tough battle against the stray beasts, so much so that the stray beasts were too weak to come out and harass other tribes. Even those tribes that were treated as food every year were spared. This directly pushed Gu-Ming's reputation in the beast world to another level. Of course, there were many people who added fuel to the fire, such as spreading information to guide public opinion and ordering the stray beasts not to go out and hunt during this winter. However, these were all stories to be told later, so let's not talk about it for now. Everyone except for Gu Mingming herself was dumbfounded when she saw Gu Mingming standing by the lake with her arms crossed in front of her chest. Gu Mingming smiled and asked Elvis, "Do you still remember this place?" Elvis looked around, then nodded with a chuckle, saying, "I remember. I came here before." Gu Mingming chuckled and said, "Yeah, I just wanted to go down and touch a lotus root, but you thought I was going to commit suicide and threw a huge tantrum at me. Silly girl." Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and sighed, thinking to himself that he was not throwing a tantrum at that time. He was scared stiff by her. He thought she was going to transmigrate back and abandon him. The moment he saw her enter the water, he even held his breath, his heart forgot to beat, and his pupils dilated instantly. He could still remember the feeling of his blood freezing at that time. At that time, he deeply felt fear and terror. The feeling of watching her slip through the cracks of his fingers, trying his best to hold on to her, but unable to touch her despite the ripples in the water. Even now, when he thought about it, he still felt like his heart was being pricked by countless needles. Gu Mingming did not refute, and only took 2 steps back, saying, "I won't go near the water surface. I will just stand here. You won't be worried like this, right? MMM?" Elvis chuckled and kissed Gu Mingming's forehead, saying, "Go down if you want to. I'm not worried." MMM? Gu Mingming was taken aback. She clearly remembered that Elvis looked like he was possessed the moment she got close to the surface of the lake. Now he suddenly said that he was not worried. Elvis pulled Gu Mingming into his arms and said, "At that time, I was too uneasy. I was worried that I was nothing in your heart, worried that you would abandon me without hesitation, worried that there was nothing in the beast world that was worth your nostalgia. I was too afraid that you would smile at me and say goodbye before falling into the lake, sinking all the way down to a place where I can no longer reach." At that time, she had not mated with Leah yet. Elvis always felt that she only loved Leah and not him. No matter how many times she said that, he just thought she was comforting him. From the bottom of his heart, he did not believe that she had feelings for him. Did he really think that she could abandon him at any time? So no matter how tormented his heart was, he still tried his best to bring her and Leah together, just so that he could place a little more bargaining chip on her scale. As long as she hesitated for a second when she wanted to leave, it would be enough for him to catch her in time. At the end of the day, it was the incident of her jumping into the lake when she was heartbroken that had traumatized Elvis. Now, he said he was not afraid anymore. So, Chapter 1095. I'm sorry. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming and planted a kiss between her brows. His eyes were filled with adoration. "I didn't believe this earlier." Gu Mingming hugged Elvis back and rested her chin on his chest. "It's not too late to believe it now." Gu Mingming tiptoed and kissed Elvis on the chin. "Then can I enter the water?" Elvis lowered his head and held the back of her head with one hand. He quickly kissed her lips, which she was about to pull away from. After a long, lingering kiss, he said gently, "I will accompany you." Whenever Gu Mingming was around, everyone's gazes would unknowingly be on her. This resulted in this kiss being a public performance. Although they had been married for 2 years and had given birth to 4 children, Gu Mingming still felt it was inappropriate to display their affection in public. Blushing, she plunged into the water. Following that, 2 splashing sounds could be heard. Elvis and Leah must have jumped in right after her. Gu Mingming swam for a while before popping her head out to take a look. She realized that her 2 men and Wabi were all in the water, but they were clearly standing. Damn, height was indeed her weakness. The lotus flowers had already wilted. Only a large patch of lotus leaves swayed gently in the middle of the lake. Gu Mingming swam towards the middle of the lake. Elvis and Leah followed closely behind her, guarding her on both sides. Gu Mingming tried to dig out a lotus root, but it was hard for her to use her strength underwater. Hence, she could only return to the surface and explain the rough plan to Wabi before ordering him to do the hard work. Wabi stared at Gu Mingming with a king's disdainful gaze. "Don't tell me that this is what you need my help with." Gu Mingming couldn't help but want to laugh at the thought of Wabi being happy the entire morning because he thought there was going to be a fight. She had been enjoying teasing Wabi-Ai more and more recently. It was quite interesting to see him hopping mad, but unable to do anything to her. Although she had always been the one bullying Wabi-Ai, Wabi-Ai never bore a grudge against her. Instead, the more she bullied him, the better their relationship became. This made Gu Mengmeng feel at ease. Gu Mengmeng really did not like that kind of relationship where she had to handle it carefully. Wabi-Ai didn't even need to dive into the water to dig out the lotus roots. In his half-beast form, he used his snake tail to probe into the mud, and with a casual tug, a huge lotus root was pulled out of the water along with the mud. Wabi-Ai did not hold back at all and directly threw it at Gu Mengmeng. Elvis quickly caught the lotus root that was as thick as Gu Mengmeng's thigh, then looked at her in a daze. Although Elvis's hands were quick and avoided the lotus root hitting her face, it did not stop the mud on the lotus root from splashing onto Gu Mengmeng's face. F***CK. Now, Gu Mengmeng could act as Master Bao just by sticking a crescent on her face. Little **T. Gu Mengmeng wiped her face carelessly, then picked up the lotus and chased after Wabi-Ai. It was rare for Wabi-Ai to take advantage of something, and he felt an inexplicable sense of accomplishment. He felt as if he had reached the peak of his life. How could she catch up to Wabi-Ai in the water? Even if she had the kiss of the beast god, she wouldn't be able to swim faster than a snake. Chapter 1096. The truth was, Wabi-Ai still came up after all, and Gu Mengmeng did not really slice him into slices and stew the lotus roots. That was because he had plucked almost all the lotus roots in the water before coming up. At that moment, Gu Mengmeng only had eyes for the lotus roots and had long forgotten about chopping Wabi-Ai. This lake was a distance away from St. Nazaire, and they had only arrived in the afternoon after setting off in the morning. Although Wabi-Ai was strong, he only had one tail. Although there were other males in the water to help, their swimming skills were not as good as Wabi-Ai's, and it was more strenuous for them to work underwater. So by the time everyone finished plucking the lotus roots, it was already midnight. During this period, Gu Mengmeng had already eaten dinner and instructed everyone not to wash off all the mud on the lotus roots so that they could maintain their freshness. After camping out in the wild for a night, the atmosphere was very good. When Gu Mengmeng was not around, St. Nazaire was always in a tense state. The males with partners focused on protecting their own females while the single males risked their lives to protect the tribe. Although they loved to fight, a long battle would also make them very tired. On such a bloodless night, everyone laughed and chatted around the messenger of the beast deity, doing something that was not difficult but required unity. This level of physical labor was not enough to make the males feel tired, but this was the first time in their lives digging lotus roots, and they often ended up covered in mud. Occasionally, they would even get hit in the head by the lotus roots. Although they did not suffer any injuries, they still ended up chasing each other around. In the tranquil night, everyone discussed the interesting things that happened during the day as waves of laughter rippled out. In such an atmosphere, Gu Mengmeng had a dreamless night and slept exceptionally soundly. The next morning, Gu Mengmeng woke up on her designated seat and greeted with a hoarse voice, "Good morning." Elvis and Leah stood on her left and right, protecting her in the middle, ensuring that the cool night breeze would not blow at her. Their furry tails lightly covered her eyes, ensuring that the sunlight would not dazzle her eyes. Hearing her soft good morning, the two large tails released each side, and two red lips landed on Gu Mengmeng's cheeks at the same time. "Good morning. Good morning." On one side was a subwoofer, while on the other was a cello. Two different sounds played together, creating the first good mood for Gu Mengmeng every morning. After getting up and packing up, the males had already tied up the lotus roots with the tree vines they had plucked overnight and carried them on their backs. Gu Mengmeng naturally did not have to carry them herself. Wabi-Ai walked up to Gu Mengmeng and looked down at her condescendingly. "I am leaving." Gu Mengmeng smiled and nodded. "Yeah, see you next year." Without saying anything more, Wabi-Ai turned and swam towards the Snake King Valley. On the other hand, Gu Mengmeng just patted her own face and snuggled into Elvis's arms. After giving the order, they headed back to St. Nazaire on the path they came from. "You said it's to dig up lotus roots, but it's actually to give Wabi-Ai, right?" Leo wagged his large tail, and looked at Gu Mengmeng slyly. Chapter 1097. After returning to St. Nazaire, Guam Mengmeng distributed the lotus roots equally to the females and omnivorous orcs in the tribe. Gu Mengmeng's house had 2 portions for herself and Leah. Although it was not a lot, it was at least 1 more side dish compared to last year and the year before. Otherwise, Gu Mengmeng would really go crazy if she had to eat potatoes, meat, and sweet potato paste every day. Elvis did not spend much time at home recently. He would leave very early every day and return very late. He had been busy hunting and storing food. He could not do much in terms of vegetables, but at least he had to try his best to satisfy Gu Mengmeng's needs in terms of meat. So not only did he demand quantity and quality, he also had an almost perverted obsession with the type of meat. It was as if he was collecting stamps and could not wait to hunt all kinds of stamps for Gu Mengmeng. Leah stayed at home to accompany Gu Mengmeng as he pickled the prey Elvis brought back. By right, this should be Lee's favorite job, but now, Gu Mengmeng supported her cheeks with both hands and tilted her head to look at Leah, who was rubbing the rouge and meat. She would poke Lee's chest with her fingers every now and then and chuckle. "Meng Meng," Leah called out to her helplessly. Gu Mengmeng smiled, her bright eyes reflecting the sunlight. She looked at Leah and said, "How long is the gestation period of a fox? If we work harder this winter, will we be able to have a nest of little foxes by the time winter ends tomorrow?" It was the topic of childbirth again. As Elvis already had 4 sons, Gu Mengmeng had never pestered him to talk about these things. From a certain point of view, it could be said that she had escaped a calamity. Leah had originally thought that she would forget about this matter after a few days, but in the end, once they were alone, Gu Mengmeng would pester him and talk about little fox nonstop. He didn't dare to tell her that he didn't want to give birth because she would look at him with tears in her eyes and ask him if he didn't love her, so he didn't want her to give birth to little foxes. Only God knew how much he wanted a nest of children of their own, but she had forgotten the torture she had suffered during her last labor, but he still remembered it clearly. That day, his whole body was trembling. His heart felt as if it was tied into a dead knot by thorns. Every breath he took made his heart ache. At that time, she was not his partner yet, but his heart had already ached to this extent. Now, he couldn't bear to see her suffer in the slightest. If only giving birth was something that a male could do for her, then he would definitely fulfill her desire to have a nest of little foxes even at the cost of his life. However, he couldn't feel the pain for her. "Hey, Leah, are you really not going to touch me for the rest of your life?" Gu Mengmeng leaned forward and placed her little hand on Lee's shoulder. She laid her entire body on Lee's back and whispered into his ear, "During winter, the entire cave is sealed off by the heavy snow, and the entire cave is sealed. Once I think about that, the fox seductive fragrance will fill the entire cave, and it won't dissipate. Are you sure you can endure it?" "I'm not sure." Leah gritted his teeth in anger. Did he still need the fox seductive fragrance? Now that she was sticking to him like this, it was enough to fill his chest with fire. He wanted nothing more than to immediately push her down and ruthlessly bully her. Chapter 1098. Leah put down the salt and bacon in his hands and switched between his beast and human form, so that he was clean and spotless. Standing up, he hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms, wrapping his left arm around her waist to encircle her tightly in his embrace. His right hand pinched her chin, adjusting the angle of her line of sight, so that her eyes could meet his. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng seriously and affectionately. "Mengmeng, I am a witch doctor, and I can say that there is no one in the beast world with better medical skills than me. But even so, when you were giving birth to Kanwu, I could only pray helplessly to the beast deity, begging him to let you be safe. The helplessness of watching you hover on the line between life and death, while I can't do anything, will really drive me crazy." But Gu Mengmeng wanted to say that it was her first time giving birth to Huda and his brothers, so it was inevitable that it would be more difficult. Moreover, she now had Snake's powers to protect her, so she would definitely be fine. But Leah did not give her a chance to speak. All the words after her, but were stuck in her throat and crushed into lingering whimpers with the tip of his tongue. It was only until Gu Mengmeng was lying limply in Li's arms and her nostrils were already filled with the faint fox seductive fragrance did Leah finally stop the kiss. His long and narrow eyes were deep and misty, filled with infinite forbearance and helplessness. He said, "When you were injured in the Snake King Valley, the most fortunate thing for me was that I was a witch doctor and could save you. But I hope that my medical skills will never be used on you. Ming Ming, I said before, if you were hurt in the slightest, it would be destroying my heart." These words are not just empty words. When a female gives birth, there is a slim chance of survival. Even if you have Snake's powers to protect you, the pain is still there. The scene of you giving birth to Kanwu is still my and Elvis's nightmare. If I were to experience the scene of you being in so much pain, yet being unable to do anything about it, Ming Ming, I can tell you in advance that I might not be able to endure the pain in my heart and cut open my own chest to crush my own heart with my own hands. Even so, if you still want to give birth to a nest of little foxes, I will give them to you. Gu Mingming stopped fooling around and looked at Leah with a pitiful expression. She pouted her lips and muttered, "If you don't want to give birth, then don't. Why did you have to make it sound so scary?" Leah heaved a sigh of relief. "Promise me, you're not allowed to mention giving birth to little foxes in the future." "Fine, I won't mention it." Oof. With that, Gu Mingming turned around and walked into the cave in a huff, ignoring Leah. This was the first time Leah allowed her to throw a tantrum without going in to comfort her. He couldn't back down on this matter. He clearly knew what she would experience during childbirth, so how could he bear to do it? Sighing helplessly, Leah squatted back beside the pile of salt to continue marinating the meat. He turned around to look at the entrance of the cave. There was no movement at all. He must be really angry. "If only you were like Oratin, then I could make a lot of delicious food to coax you." Leah smiled helplessly. Then he secretly remembered to remind Elvis that other than beasts on land, Mingming also liked fish in the water and bird eggs in the trees. He must remember to bring some back next time. Gu Mingming threw a tantrum for 2 to 3 days. Elvis and Leah became very careful at home. In the end, Elvis couldn't stand Gu Mingming's gloominess and suggested a solution. Aside from the topic, today's update is over. Remember to help Susu light up the 5 stars when my babies leave comments. Thank you, baby. Chapter 1099. Xiaoming. Elvis placed Gu Mingming on his thighs and held her shoulders with both hands. He accommodated her height and looked into her eyes, saying, "I know you have been in a bad mood these few days, but not letting you suffer is the bottom line that Leah and I will never give into. So, do you want to take a nap and meet the beast deity? See if he has a little cheat similar to the kiss of the beast deity that can save you from the pain of childbirth. If he does, let you give birth. But if even the beast deity has no solution, then don't mention this matter again, and don't be in a bad mood because of this matter, all right?" Gu Mingming smacked her head. "Oh, why didn't I think of that?" With that, she peeked at Leah, waiting for him to express his stance. Leah always had his ways with Gu Mingming. Regardless of whether she cried or threw a tantrum, he would always have a way to coax her. Only this time, she did not cry or make a fuss. She was even more cruel and sinister than the time when she chased him and Elvis out of the cave in the stray beast camp. This absolute cold-blooded violence was really driving him crazy. These few days he had almost given in and said, give birth. If worse comes to worst, I will dig my heart out and commit suicide." Yes, now that she had finally relented, he instantly felt as if spring had returned to the land. Sitting beside Elvis, he held Gu Mingming's little hand and kissed it, saying, "You have to promise me, if the beast deity has no other choice, you can't throw a tantrum over this again." Gu Mingming nodded. Then, she smiled for the first time in these few days. Turning around, Gu Mingming lay on the side of the bed. Then, she slowly closed her eyes, but the corners of her lips were still curled up. Layers of white fog blew towards them. When Gu Mingming saw the beast deity standing in the clouds, she could not help but smile guiltily. The previous time she came, she said that she wanted to be a filial daughter and come back to watch television with him when she was free. But after the incident with Oakley, she suddenly had a deep understanding of parting. She desperately wanted to cherish the person in front of her. Hence, he completely forgot about his promise to the beast deity. As the saying goes, a guilty person smiles first. Gu Mingming smiled like a sunflower and pounced into the beast deity's arms. She said in a sweet Hong Kong accent, "Papa, I missed you so much." The beast deity was a highly skilled person after all. He did not even laugh at Gu Mingming's fawning. He maintained his usual kind and amiable demeanor as he gently patted Gu Mingming's little head. "Yeah, a married daughter is like spilled water." Although I was already mentally prepared, I was still looking forward to it when you said you would come back to accompany me more often. Gu Mingming felt an arrow piercing her heart. She looked pitifully at the beast deity and blinked her eyes. The words, "Please forgive me," were clearly written on her face. The beast deity held Gu Mingming's hand and walked towards the two-seater wooden chair as he said, "It's all right, little magpie. You have a long tail. Once you have a wife, you will forget your mother." Chapter 1100. Why did he sound like he was angry? Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around the beast deity's arm and said coquettishly, "Father, I know I was wrong. Don't be angry. Don't be angry." The beast deity heaved a long sigh of relief before pulling Gu Mingming's hand to sit on the long bench. "All right, you heartless little thing. I have already scolded you, and my anger has subsided. Since you are back, accompany me to watch television. We could talk about pocket money after that." "All right." Gu Mingming obediently held onto the beast deity's arm as they sat side by side on the two-seater wooden bench. Her furry little head rested on the beast deity's arm. Perhaps it was because they had known each other for a long time, or because she kept calling him father, but if one ignored the beast deity's overly young appearance, the two of them really did look like father and daughter. The beast deity waved his hand, and a large part of the white fog dissipated. The image showed Monster Company's internal employee forum. There was a post titled, "CEO's wife arrogantly declared her sovereignty," while the CEO turned into a wife-protecting maniac and accompanied her the entire time. P.S. There are pictures to prove the truth. The post was pushed to the top by many replies within a few minutes. Then, it was deleted. Following that was an announcement from the CEO's office. The reason for deleting the post was that the surveillance footage provided by the post was not clear enough and did not perfectly display CEO's wife's beauty and intelligence. After being magnified 20 times, there was a mosaic on her facial features. Different angles of the screenshots also showed that her eyelashes were deformed. Regarding this, the CEO was furious. The solution was as follows. 1. The entire company's surveillance cameras had to be upgraded immediately. The quality of the images had to be the best in the world. The screenshots had to be projected directly onto the LED screens of the company's buildings so that every pore could be clearly seen. 2. Monster Company reserves the right to pursue the infringement of image of the CEO's wife for violating the rights to her portrait. 3. All employees immediately went to the latest highlight post to confirm and remember the CEO's wife's appearance. If any employee in Monster Company could not recognize the CEO's wife under any circumstances, it would mean that the employee lacked the most basic loyalty to Monster Company and would be fired. Following that, a new post was pinned by the officials. It was bolded, highlighted, and highlighted. The striking red font was unique in the corporate forum. The title of the post was, "The CEO's wife made a high-profile and domineering tour to declare her sovereignty. The CEO turned into a wife-protecting maniac and accompanied her the whole time." P.S. There are pictures and the truth. 2. HD version. The original content in the post was not changed at all. It was just that the photos had been replaced with the high-definition version that the technical department had just revised. The images in the monitor were carefully selected frame by the employees of the technical department and the corporate public relations department. The CEO only had one request. That was, no matter what the CEO looked like in the images, as long as the CEO's wife looked good, it was fine. This post was like a torpedo thrown into the corporate forum, blowing up the warehouse manager Old Wong, who had been lurking in the shadows for many years. Chapter 1101. Yeah, everyone in Monsieur Company knew that the CEO was delighted today, except for the female lead who was focused on peeling an apple in the CEO's office, Gu Mingming. After peeling the apple, Gu Mingming cut the apple into 4 pieces and removed the gap in the middle. She brought it to Snake and asked, "Do you want to eat it?" Snake closed the computer gently, then looked at Gu Mingming with a chuckle and said, "You eat it." Oh, Gu Mingming thought that Snake did not want to eat it, and thought that most guys did not like to eat fruits. Hence, she did not stand on ceremony and took a bite. The juices flowed everywhere, and the sweetness of the fruit filled her mouth. Gu Mingming's eyes instantly curved, and she smiled in satisfaction. Snake held on to Gu Mingming's little hand and sent the half of the apple into his mouth. Then he nodded and said, "Yeah, it's really delicious." Gu Mingming blushed and said, "Didn't you not eat it?" Snake raised his brows and asked, "When did I say I'm not eating it?" Gu Mingming was speechless and handed one of the remaining 3 pieces of apple to Snake. But Snake shook his head and said, "I don't like eating apples." "Then just now the food you ate is an exception." Snake chuckled and then pulled open a drawer under the boss's desk. He took out a sapphire blue box from it. With one hand, he pulled Gu Mingming into his arms. His long arms wrapped around Gu Mingming's waist, and he opened the box with his slender fingers. Inside was an exquisite collarbone necklace. The 2 letters MS were designed to look like electrocardiograms. The bottom left corner of M and the top right corner of S were respectively circled into small hearts and connected to the necklace. Snake's chin rested on Gu Mingming's shoulder. He tilted his head and his lips lightly brushed against Gu Mingming's cheek, creating an ambiguous atmosphere. "Do you like it?" Gu Mingming pursed her lips and said, "For me?" Snake chuckled and said, "Other than you, who else's name is worthy to be linked with mine?" So, M was the first letter of Ming in Gu Mingming's name, while was the first letter of Snake's name. Gu Mingming's heart was filled with sweetness. She glanced sideways and asked, "When did you prepare?" When Gu Mingming turned her face, her lips met Snake's. Although it was just a light brush, Gu Mingming still felt her face heating up. She instinctively shrank back and looked elsewhere, not daring to look at Snake. Snake did not force her, but the smile on his lips deepened. "Shall I help you put on?" Gu Mingming nodded and lifted her hair. Snake gently helped her put on the necklace properly. Then he gently caressed the necklace with his fingers and said with a deep gaze, "Remember, don't take it off. This necklace is a sign that you belong to me." Gu Mingming was originally quite touched, but why did she suddenly feel that the pink bubble had burst? A symbol that belonged to him. Was it similar to a dog's collar? "You don't like it?" Snake asked. Gu Mingming pursed her lips and said, "It's not that I don't like it. It's just that other people give couples rings or something. Why did you give a necklace?" Chapter 1102. Before he finished his sentence, Snake had already pulled open the drawer where he took out the necklace. He took out a red velvet box and opened it to reveal a pair of snake-shaped rings. The male and female rings were placed side by side. They were 2 intertwined snakes with a diamond in the middle. It was not a particularly extravagant size, but it was dazzling and eye-catching. Even a fool would know that it was worth a lot. When the 2 rings were separated, the diamond was embedded in the female ring. It was obviously an extra piece, but it didn't stand out. Just looking at the shape of the female ring, it looked like a snake was coiling around the diamond to protect it. It was very special and exquisite. On the other hand, the male ring was missing a piece. It looked like an incomplete snake, giving off a sense of fragility. Gu Mingming looked at the rings in confusion. She did not understand why the ring Snake had prepared were in the shape of a snake. Snake caressed the diamond on the ring gently. "Do you know? To a snake, the heart is not its weakness, but its gallbladder is. The place where this diamond is located is where the gallbladder of the male snake is." He gave his gallbladder to the female to protect, which means that in the eyes of the male snake, the female is more important than his own life. When the 2 rings are together, they're a lingering pair. If they are separated, The male snake will be incomplete. A snake without gallbladder will die. Snake held Gu Mingming's little hand and kissed it. If you stay by my side, I will be happy. If you leave me, I will die. When I put this ring on for you, it means that I am entrusting my life to you. And I have already prepared the rings. What about you? Are you ready to wear them? For some reason, when Gu Mingming heard the words "a snake without gallbladder will die," she felt as if her heart was stung by a bee. The slight pain made her frown. Closing the lid of the ring box, Gu Mingming shook her head. We just confirmed our relationship. It's too fast. Snake did not force her. After all, she had not reached the legal age for marriage. Moreover, regardless of whether she had the certificate, he would not allow anyone else to snatch her away. So this pair of rings had to be worn on her finger sooner or later. He would not tell Gu Mingming what had happened in the beast world. He had designed this pair of rings just to let her know that no matter how many times he had to go back, he would still be willing to cut open his chest for her. Whether it was in the beast world or here, she was more important than his life. I'll only borrow your life once. This journey will be the rest of my life. Snake gently kissed the side of Gu Mingming's face, saying gently but without any resistance, "Tu Ming, we still have a long time to be together. So take it slow. I'm not in a hurry. However, you must know one thing. You promised to be with me, and I won't allow you to go back on your word. As long as you don't leave me, I can do whatever you want." Gu Mingming smiled. "Promise me anything?" "Yes." Snake nodded. Gu Mingming smiled and said, "Then, let's raise a dog, all right?" Gu Mingming had a thing for furry animals, but due to financial reasons, she had never kept any small animals. In the past, she had fantasized about raising a pet with her boyfriend one day. That must be a wonderful thing. However, Snake raised his brows and his eyes darkened. Chapter 1103. Sniggering, Snake asked, "What kind of dog do you want?" Gu Mingming thought for a while and said, Something like a golden retriever or a Samoyed that is obedient and good-looking. It would be very eye-catching if you bring it out for a walk." Snake held onto Gu Mingming's waist and made her stand up to face him. He looked up and smiled. "I have a better suggestion." Gu Mingming was curious. Snake pulled out his tie and stuffed it into Gu Mingming's hands. Then he stood up and placed both his hands on the office table beside Gu Mingming. He tilted his upper body and hugged Gu Mingming to his chest. His thin lips pressed against her ear, and he said, "I will be your dog and listen to you. I will let you look at me however you want." Gu Mingming's face turned red, and she instinctively tightened her grip on Snake's tie. Snake took the opportunity and pounced on Gu Mingming, pressing her onto the office table. The smile at the corner of his lips spread to the bottom of his eyes. Snake said in a teasing tone, "Moreover, walking me will definitely be more eye-catching than walking a golden retriever or Samoyed. What do you think? Girlfriend, you get up first." This position was so intimate that Gu Mingming felt like she could not breathe. But Snake pursed his lips and seemed to be thinking about something. After thinking for a while, he said, "If you want a pet to be obedient, you have to give some reward, right?" What reward?" Gu Mingming whispered. Snake kissed Gu Mingming's lips lightly and said, "Stroke my head and say my snake is so obedient." Gu Mingming blushed and felt as if she was being kissed by Snake's cuteness. She raised her hand and touched Snake's head gently. She said softly, My snake is so obedient." Snake gave Gu Mingming another peck on the lips in satisfaction before straightening his body. Snake's lips were still curled upwards. He had always been envious of Leah being stroked by Gu Mingming in her arms. Now that he had experienced it, it felt really good. It was no wonder that the fox did not mind others calling him a beast pet. If being a pet could receive such tenderness from her, then there was no difference between being a dog and being a snake to Snake. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking came from the door. Gu Mingming hurriedly stood up and adjusted Snake's suit and tie. Due to the pressure just now, there were some slight creases on Snake's suit, which Gu Mingming could not smooth even after stroking it a few times. But Snake did not mind at all and directly said, "Come in." Gu Mingming instinctively took a step back, but Snake hugged her waist. He lowered his head to look in her eyes and said, "Continue tidying. Don't push me away." The Secretary General, who came in to report, was forcefully stuffed with a handful of dog food. Fortunately, he was calm and collected. He was stunned for 2 seconds before he adjusted his state of mind and said, "President, there will be a meeting in 5 minutes. The senior executives are already waiting for you in the conference room." Snake did not say a word. He just raised his hand and made a get-out gesture with 2 fingers, meaning that he understood. The secretary was already used to Snake's simple and crude way of handling things, so he bowed respectfully and said, "CEO, Madam, I will leave first. If you need anything, please call me anytime." Chapter 1104. Tu-Ming, come here. Snake held Gu Mingming's hand and walked into the resting room in the office. Then he pulled open the wardrobe door and said, "Choose one. I will change." Gu Mingming knew that it was Snake's working hours now. As a CEO, he had to dress appropriately. His nobility meant that he would not wear a wrinkled suit to attend important meetings. "Don't hug me in the office next time." Gu Mingming mumbled softly. Snake hugged her from behind and asked softly, "Why?" Gu Mingming replied, "It's too troublesome to change clothes after a hug." "I don't find it troublesome." Snake chuckled. He knew that his Tu-Ming had misunderstood, but he did not want to explain, because in a while, she would know why he wanted to change his clothes. Gu Mingming's lips curved upwards at Snake's words. It was a beautiful smile. Taking out a dark coffee-colored suit, Gu Mingming placed it on Snake's body and measured it. Gu Mingming's eyes widened in shock. It was a 4-piece business suit. It was the kind of suit that only the top talents who walked out of elite magazines would wear. The word Meng was clearly embroidered on the left chest area. It was not an M, but the Chinese word Meng. Gu Mingming blinked at Snake and said, "This?" Snake chuckled and kissed her shocked eyes. Then he said, "I prepared it long ago. It's just that I have the right to wear it now. I wanted to tattoo it on my chest, but this body belongs to you. I did not dare to use it without your consent. I could only settle for the next best thing. I embroidered your name on every piece of my clothes to announce to the world that I am yours." He gave her a necklace and said that it was proof that she belonged to him. She felt a little awkward and felt that it was a leash used to tie a dog. But he treated himself to the extreme. He blocked all the possibilities of other people having wild thoughts about him without any blind spots. He really gave up an entire forest for her, a small tree. And it was the size of the Amazon rainforest. Gu Mingming pounced into Snake's arms and hugged him tightly. She said, "You are really the best boyfriend in the world." Snake chuckled and hugged Gu Mingming back. With her in his arms, his life seemed to be full. This feeling was really blissful. Moreover, his body was warm now. Even if he hugged her like this, he didn't have to worry about her feeling uncomfortable from the cold. Yes, and he will be the best husband in the world in the future. Gu Mingming blushed and instinctively glanced in the direction of Snake's desk. Snake cupped Gu Mingming's little face with both hands and kissed her. "All right, I'm going to the meeting. Wait for me here." Gu Mingming nodded. Then, Snake walked out of the resting room wearing the suit with the word Meng embroidered on the left chest and went straight to the meeting room. After Snake left, the air in the office gradually cooled down, and Gu Mingming was finally able to breathe properly. Slumping on the sofa, Gu Mingming gently touched the necklace around her neck. The necklace that reflected the sunlight and emitted a dazzling glow became warm because of her body temperature. Chapter 1105. Just as Gu Mingming was about to leave, her phone suddenly vibrated. Looking down, she saw the name displayed on the screen as 743. Page 7, paragraph 4, line 3, hello. Gu Mingming was a little confused. Wasn't he in a meeting? Why was he calling her? "There's a document on my table. Bring it to the meeting room for me." Oh. Gu Mingming stood up and walked to the office table. She saw 2 documents clamped in a blue folder and asked, "There are 2 here. Which one do you want?" "Anything. Anything." Gu Mingming frowned in confusion. Snakel immediately added, "It's all the same. Just take any set over. Hurry up." "Oh." Gu Mingming did not suspect anything and just took one out of the office. The meeting room was one floor below. Gu Mingming took the elevator specially used by the CEO down, and there was already someone waiting at the elevator entrance. The moment the elevator doors opened, he bowed respectfully and greeted, "Madam." Gu Mingming was shocked, and before she could explain, she saw that person gesturing for her to follow, before hurriedly leading the way. Gu Mingming had no choice but to follow. At the entrance of the meeting room, the welcoming person pushed open the soundproof glass door and invited Gu Mingming in. "Thank you." Gu Mingming was still not used to being treated like this. Actually, she had her own hands and could open the door herself. "Tu Ming, come here." Snake stretched out his hand, palm facing upwards. Gu Mingming thought that he was in a hurry for the document, so she ran around the meeting table and handed the document to him. In the end, Snake did not even look at it and just casually threw the document to one side. He then grabbed Gu Mingming's arm and pulled forcefully, causing Gu Mingming to fall into Snake's arms. Snake then heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Indeed, I can only feel at ease when I hug you in my arms. I missed you so much after not seeing you for 5 minutes." With that, Snake buried his head into Gu Mingming's neck and rubbed against her, greedily inhaling her scent. "Stop fooling around. Everyone is watching." Gu Mingming struggled to get up, but Snake did not want to let go at all. He raised his head from Gu Mingming's neck and glanced coldly at the higher-ups sitting around the meeting table. Then, everyone lowered their noble heads in unison. Above everyone's heads was the special effect of, "You can't see me. You can't see me. No one is watching. Let me hold you for a while." Snake was very satisfied that even the manager he hired knew how to read people's expressions. He had no choice. His Tu Ming was too shy. Seeing that Gu Mingming was still struggling, Snake whispered in her ear, "Be good and let me hug you, or we could do something else here." Gu Mingming's face was burning red, and she did not dare to act rashly. But it was really inappropriate to be hugged like that during a meeting. It felt like King Zhou Shang was still hugging Daji when he was attending court. "Don't be like this. People will say that I'm a femme fatale." Snake chuckled and pecked Gu Mingming's lips lightly. He said, "Silly girl, my kingdom is more than enough to support a femme fatale like you." Gu Mingming was tickled by Snake, and when Gu Mingming smiled, Snake's lips curled up too. Then the entire meeting room brightened up. "Continue." With Snake's order, the meeting could finally continue. Chapter 1106. At 11:50 in the afternoon, Snake closed his laptop. Everyone in the meeting room stood up in unison and bowed to Snake before filing out of the room, closing the door behind them on their way out. Asking for documents was an act? Gu Mingming finally asked. Snake tapped Gu Mingming's little nose lightly and said, "So smart." Gu Mingming felt a sweetness in her heart as she lowered her head and chuckled. "No wonder you said it's all the same. So it's because you don't need it, so you can take anyone." Snake hugged Gu Mingming and kissed her, asking, "Did I scare you?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "I don't really understand what you guys are talking about, but I don't find it boring either." Because Snake was really too handsome. As they had to use the projector, the meeting room was in a semi-dark state. Gu Mingming sat in Snake's arms and used the light from the projector to look at his face that flickered between light and dark. That focused gaze was sharp and precise, like a snake that had locked on to its target in the dark. He was calm and at ease, exuding the unique confidence and aura of a superior, making others unable to help but admire him. And such an outstanding man was her boyfriend. Just thinking about it made Gu Mingming's little heart throb uncontrollably. How could she have the time to be bored? And Snake naturally did not ignore Gu Mingming's admiring gaze, or else he would not have allowed the meeting to continue until now. After all, he had opened the company to please her, not to make her suffer. Yeah, it seemed like the information in her memory was not all wrong. At least what she had said before. A man who works hard is the most attractive was true. Lunch was takeaway ordered by the Secretary General. After a simple meal, another round of meetings started. Snake had to use a weekend to settle a week's worth of work, so the workload was very heavy. When they were about to leave at night, they realized that it had already started to rain. Snake drove from Monster Company's underground car park to the villa's underground car park. They did not need to use an umbrella and reached home safely. After entering, Snake held Gu Mingming's hand and sent her to the door of the room. With one arm around her waist and the other against the door, he leaned over and kissed her forehead, saying, "You must be exhausted today, right? Quickly go and rest." Gu Mingming nodded. Just as she was about to leave, she realized that Snake did not let go at all. Her entire body was encircled by his chest. How could she leave? Upon receiving Gu Mingming's questioning gaze, Snake pursed his lips and said, "I can't bear to let go. Why don't you invite me in for a cup of tea?" Gu Mingming chuckled. "How can I have tea in my room? You've been hugging me all day. Haven't you had enough? Let go of me." Snake took a deep breath and hugged Gu Mingming tightly. "Yeah, I'm used to hugging you for a day." As soon as I let go, I felt an emptiness in my arms. I felt uncomfortable. Gu Mingming pushed Snake's chest lightly. After hesitating for a moment, she took the initiative to kiss Snake's face and said, "All right, good night." With that, she ducked out from under Snake's arm, opened the door, returned to the room, and closed the door. Sliding onto the floor against the door, Gu Mingming was still holding onto her heart that was beating out of rhythm, smiling secretly with a blushing face. Crack! Chapter 1107. Snake chuckled, and his lips curled into a confident smile. He then knocked on the door and said, "Tu Ming, there's thunder. I'm scared." Gu Mingming couldn't help but laugh out loud at the door. She didn't open the door and just sat at the door and said, "You're a domineering CEO and you're scared of thunder? I'm someone who went to primary school. Don't lie to me." Snake squatted down outside the door and accurately placed his hand on the back of Gu Mingming's head through the door. He chuckled and said, "I'm your dog. Don't you feel heartache letting your pet face the thunder and lightning alone on a stormy night?" Uffed. She still remembered this. "Tu Ming, did I tell you before? I have a spare key to every room." Gu Mingming was stunned and turned to look at Snake through the door. It was as if Snake could feel her gaze through the door. He smiled and said, "Open the door yourself and accompany me as your pet. Or I'll use the spare key to open the door and accompany you as my girlfriend." You know the difference between the two. Understood instantly, damn it. Gu Mingming was once again amazed at how she knew so much. Click! Gu Mingming gently turned the door handle and moved it a little. The door was opened a little, but it was enough to light up Snake's entire world. He pushed the door open and without another word, he pounced on Gu Mingming and kissed her carelessly. He said, "You actually locked your own dog outside the door. Heartless master, do you think I should bite you?" Don't. Our Snake is the most obedient. Don't bite me." Gu Mingming admitted defeat. She could never get tired of hearing the term, "our Snake." His mood was great, but Snake wanted to bite her even more. After pondering for a while, he bit her little chin lightly and then hugged her in his arms. He said, "I'll let you off this time. Next time you lock me outside the door, I'll let you know how powerful your dog's teeth are." Not locking him outside the door. Did that mean he could come in and stay as he pleased? Gu Mingming shook her head and said that. "I can't." Snake pinched her little face and said, "I especially don't like the way you shake your head at me. But I just want a hug, nothing else." Snake said, "But if you reject me again, I might not be able to control myself and have you first. Then, tomorrow, I will tie you up and bring you to Europe to get your marriage certificate. Well, you don't have to wait until you're 20 to get a license in Europe. You promise." Gu Mingming knew Snake's capabilities well. He would definitely do what he said. Snake nodded and said cautiously, "Yes, I promise." Gu Mingming knew that there was no use in resisting. It would only make the outcome worse for her. Moreover, Snake had already promised, and she believed that Snake would not go back on his words. So he nodded and said, "Then get up first. I'm going to wash up. Together." Snake flipped over and stood up before pulling Gu Mingming into his arms. Like Siamese twins, they entered the washroom to wash their pants together before returning to the bed to lie down. Before he switched off the lights, he planted a kiss on Gu Mingming's forehead and said affectionately, good night, drawing a perfect end to this beautiful day. To snakes, rainy days always made them feel happy. The fog gathered again, and Gu Mingming looked at the screen disappearing behind the white fog. She laughed bitterly and said, "Snake is really as domineering as usual." Aside from the topic, are you satisfied with the special snake special that my babies have been waiting for? Chapter 1108. The Beast Deity chuckled. Say, do you think there will be a mosaic in the next episode? Gu Mingming rolled her eyes at the Beast Deity. Is there any father who would discuss such content with his own daughter? The Beast Deity thought for a moment. That's true. For the sake of my daughter's mental and physical development, if there is really any inharmonious content, I will cut it off and not broadcast it. Gu Mingming held her forehead in exasperation. The Beast Deity pinched Gu Mingming's little face. All right, the drama is over. Tell me, why did you come to find me? Gu Mingming pursed her lips. She was a little shy, but she still told the Beast Deity about what Leah and Elvis were worried about. The Beast Deity chuckled. How can giving birth be painless? But you have Snake's power to protect you. You won't die. What are you afraid of? Don't be a coward. Just give birth. Gu Mingming sighed with a bitter expression. That's what I said too. But Elvis and Leah don't agree. Then don't give birth. The Beast Deity said. Gu Mingming stared at the Beast Deity coldly. Father, can't you be more resolute? The Beast Deity shrugged. The Beast Father doesn't even want to keep the child. Why do you still insist on giving birth to his child? Gu Mingming lowered her head. I already owe the two of them in terms of relationships. I hope to make it up to them in other aspects. Elvis already has a nest of wolf cubs. If I don't give birth to a nest of fox cubs for Leah, the Beast Deity chuckled. He shook his head in exasperation. Other males try their best to coax their females to give birth to their cubs. Why is it the other way around for you? Gu Mingming was not annoyed by her father's mockery. She shook the Beast Deity's arm. Is there a way? Father, the Beast Deity sighed. There is a way, but you have to find it yourself. Huh? Gu Mingming looked at the Beast Deity in confusion. The Beast Deity said calmly, Love of the sky. Gu Mingming was taken aback. Her eyes dimmed. One of the 7 treasures? The Beast Deity nodded. The kiss of the ocean is tolerance. Soul of the forest is life. Gu Mingming continued the Beast Deity's words and said softly, Light means to dispel all darkness, including all pain, right? This concept was what Wang Xiaoxin had told Snake's father in his memory. The beast god nodded and said, Yes, if you could wear the love of the sky during labor, it wouldn't be so painful. Gu Mingming was a little dejected. She lowered her head and fiddled with her fingers. I don't want to gather all those things, Tisk. The Beast Deity placed his hand gently on Gu Mingming's shoulder and said, Even if they are all gathered, the final authority is still in your hands, understand? Gu Mingming nodded and said, I understand. Let me think about it carefully. The Beast Deity did not say a word. He could provide help to Gu Mingming, but he could not dictate her decisions. After all, with his status, he could not interfere with the matters of the beast world. Gu Mingming took a deep breath and asked again. Then about Wabi, the Beast Deity continued shaking his head. Gu Mingming said, Yeah, I understand. I still can't say. All right, I won't ask anymore. I'll go back first. Chapter 1109. Whenever she woke up, she would always be faced with Elvis's concerned gaze. Gu Mingming remembered that Elvis had told her before that he would always feel uneasy whenever she went to see the Beast Deity. This kind of uneasiness was without reason, but Gu Mingming could not say that he was worrying for nothing. Sometimes, a man's sixth sense was very accurate. What's wrong? Elvis asked as he helped Gu Mingming up. Before he finished his sentence, the cup of water was already at Gu Mingming's lips. Gu Mingming drank a mouthful of water, then sat up straight. She looked at Elvis, pursed her lips, and hesitated for a while, but still called Leah over. The three of them sat facing each other before Gu Mingming said, I have to tell you something. Elvis asked softly. Gu Mingming took a deep breath and said, The beast deity told me that if I want to avoid the pain during childbirth, I just need to get the love of the sky. Li's smile obviously froze, his face full of disbelief. In order to not let Gu Mengmeng suffer, he had been trying his best to suppress his desire to have a child that belonged to him and her. Until now, he had accepted his fate and thought that he would never have a child of his own in this lifetime. But now he had a chance. This huge surprise made him dumbfounded at the moment. After a long while, he reached out his trembling hands to hold onto Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and said carefully, "Mengmeng, don't lie to me about this. You know I can't take it." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "I won't lie to you and Elvis. Even if you don't blame me, I won't lie to you." Li's arm tightened, locking Gu Mengmeng in his embrace. It was a strength that made Gu Mengmeng almost suffocate, as if he wanted to rub her into his chest. Gu Mengmeng could feel Leah trembling. She could clearly feel his agitation. How was it that he did not care about having a child? How was it that he had never been envious of others? He was so envious that he almost went crazy. He wanted it so much that he was almost possessed. But because he could not bear for her to bear the pain of childbirth, he personally extinguished all his expectations, not even allowing a single smoke to rise. He was too good to her. In order to be good to her, he could be cruel to anyone, including himself. "I'll find the love of the sky. After that, we'll have a nest of little foxes. You like the little foxes so much, I'll give you as many as you want. I won't disobey you anymore. Finally, I can give you everything you want. Mengmeng, I've made you suffer these days because my attitude made you sad, right?" Leah cupped Gu Mengmeng's little face and kissed it again and again, his heart aching for her. During this period of time, Gu Mengmeng had tried all sorts of ways to please him, coaxing and pestering him to give birth to a nest of little foxes. His heart ached when he saw her compromising look, but he could not bear to let her feel that pain once. So he kept rejecting her, avoiding her, and even berating her. Every time he pushed her away, it was as painful as peeling off a layer of his own skin. But how could this kind of pain compare to the moment she frowned, which made him feel like a fishbone was stuck in his throat? Now, as long as he found the love of the sky, he would be able to love her as much as he wanted and would never have to push her away again. "Mengmeng, why are you unhappy?" Li's gaze landed on Gu Mengmeng's little face, which looked like she wanted to say something but stopped herself. She was clearly looking forward to having a nest of little foxes. Now that he had finally agreed, why did she look unhappy? Chapter 11:10. What's the matter? Leah held on to Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and asked. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and said, "The tear of the beast deity, kiss of the ocean, love of the sky, soul of the forest, heart of the desert, spirit of the rocky cliffs, and key of the beast king are the 7 treasures of the beast world. These 7 treasures are the divine items of the beast world. With any one of them, you can activate the bloodline of the beast king and dominate the beast world. If you gather all 7, you can open the doors of time and space." Elvis and Leah froze. The moment the words doors of time and space came out, it was as if everything in this world had frozen. Elvis and Leah even forgot to breathe and just stared at Gu Mengmeng blankly. In the next moment, the blood in their bodies boiled like white smoke rolling in ice. It looked surging, but there was no warmth at all. It was bone-chilling. Elvis scooped Gu Mengmeng into his arms and hugged her tightly. He clenched his teeth and could not say a word. His blood-red eyes widened, and in that instant his eyeballs were filled with red veins. It was frighteningly hideous. Li's throat let out a low, trembling cry. It was not anger or sadness, but the echo of an uncontrollable trembling under extreme fear. For words, Gu Mengmeng only used 4 words to scare the black and white duo that every tribe in the beast world feared so much that they felt chills all over their bodies and their souls left their bodies. "No more, we won't give birth." Li's voice was full of determination and trembling. There was no hesitation at all. Nothing in this world could be compared to Gu Mengmeng. They did not even have the right to be compared. If he had to risk losing Gu Mengmeng to obtain something, he would rather destroy the world. He did not want anything but Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming sighed. She did not dare to say it all along, because she was afraid that things would turn out like this. She thought that Elvis and Leah dared to let her enter the lake meant that they were not that afraid that she would leave. So, that person was already forcing himself to believe her. The words doors of time and space were still too serious for them. Hugging Elvis back gently, Gu Mingming said softly, "Don't panic, let me finish." His ears were ringing, and his mind was filled with Gu Mingming's words, "You can open the doors of time and space." The way she cried and said she wanted to leave. The way she smiled and thanked him before lying in the middle of the lake. The way she curled up in a corner and said she did not belong here. All he could think of was the way she wanted to abandon him. Fear. Every inch of Elvis's nerves was telling him that he was extremely afraid. Even though he was holding her like this, he still couldn't shake off the fear of losing her in the next second. Gu Mingming knew that their emotions were fluctuating too much. She had tried to communicate with them several times, but to no avail. They were so shocked by this news that they could not listen to anything else she said. Elvis hugged her tightly, while Lee's eyes were fixed on her. He felt as if the knife would disappear if he blinked. Gu Mingming sighed and patted Elvis's back lightly, calling him over and over again, "Hubby, hubby, Hugging Gu Mingming until her entire body was numb, Elvis finally heard her calling and squeezed out a dry sound from his throat. Chapter 11:11. I know. It was just 3 simple words, but it was as if Elvis's entire chest had been torn apart. He knew. All his rationality told him that Gu Mingming would not leave him. They also had such blissful days, Huda and his brothers whom she cared about, Leah whom she liked, Sandy whom she cared about. But even though he knew, he still felt uneasy. Even though he was hugging her like this, he still felt that she could slip away from his fingers in the next second, just like a gust of wind, just like a handful of sand, just like the sunlight that could not be held back, just like the ocean waves that could not be held back. But I can't control myself, I'm still afraid. Gu Mingming held Elvis's face with both hands and kissed him deeply on the lips. Elvis was stunned at first, then he kissed her back crazily. If she wanted a kiss, he would give her the hottest kiss. He could satisfy all her needs, really, as long as she didn't leave, as long as she stayed, as long as she didn't abandon him. He could do anything, really. Elvis's kiss was lingering, passionate, and urgent. His uneasiness and desire were clearly conveyed to Gu Mingming through this kiss. Gu Mingming allowed him to entangle her tongue and only responded gently. She calmed his emotions slowly, softly, and gently. The kiss lasted for a long time until Elvis finally calmed down. This kiss was only left with deep love. Gu Mingming then slowly let go of Elvis. Panting heavily like a fish on shore, her face flushed from lack of oxygen was filled with tenderness. She chuckled. Are you still afraid now? Elvis hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. I'm afraid. Gu Mingming had no choice but to reach out a hand to Leah. Without hesitation, Leah held her little hand tightly in his palm. Gu Mingming's other hand was holding Elvis's. Both of them protected her in their palms, feeling that soft touch. They didn't dare to use too much force, afraid of hurting her, but they also didn't dare to let go, afraid that she would disappear. Gu Mingming took the initiative to hold their hands. Not only can you not leave me, I can't leave you too. I won't leave, I won't. Elvis and Leah nodded with much difficulty. Leah said, I always believe Mingming's words. No matter how uneasy he was, no matter how scared he was, as long as she said it, he would believe her. Elvis nodded and replied, Xiao Ming, you can lie to me about anything but this. You must never go back on your word, understand? Gu Mingming nodded. Why don't I make an oath to the beast deity? No. Elvis and Leah replied in unison. You are not allowed to swear recklessly. Gu Mingming chuckled. All right, I won't swear, but you have to believe me before I can continue. Elvis hesitated for a moment, then looked up at Gu Mingming and said firmly, Xiao Ming, I want you to promise me. If one day you decide to leave, take me with you or kill me. And me, Leah said softly. Gu Mingming nodded helplessly. All right, if I want to leave, I will definitely bring the 2 of you along. They were never afraid of death, but losing her. With this promise, the two of them gradually calmed down. The worst outcome would be death, but before that, they would not lose her. Chapter 11-12. This could also be considered as good news. At least it eliminated the possibility of someone plotting against Gu Mingming to force her into that door. Gu Mingming continued, "Among the 7 treasures, I have the tear of the beast deity. Qi Xian has the soul of the forest and the kiss of the ocean. I don't know where the love of the sky, the heart of the desert, and the spirit of the rocky cliffs are, but what I am really worried about is the key of the Beast King." Leah frowned and said, "You mean a child with the bloodline of the Beast King?" Gu Mingming nodded and said, "Wang Xiaoxin wanted to use Snake as the key of the Beast King that year, so she found whales to mate with. Although the doors of time and space were not opened in the end, but Leah knew that there were some things that Gu Mingming could not say out loud. So he helped her to say, but the usage and activation methods of these 7 treasures have been passed down to the messenger's tribe, Sauter. The best proof is that Cole knew how to use the kiss of the ocean and the soul of the forest to save Qi Xian. So, you are worried that Cole will target your next child with the bloodline of the Beast King. You are afraid that what happened to Qi Xian will happen again, right?" Gu Mingming nodded, indicating that what Leah said was exactly what she was worried about. One Qi Xian had already exhausted her. If Cole did the same thing and abducted another child from her, she would really break down. She was really afraid that when she was about to stab Cole's chest with her sharp blade, the one standing in front of her would not be an enemy, but her child. The simplest way is for you to not have any more children. In the end, the topic returned to this. Lee's emotions were very strange. From the start, he had been trying his best to suppress his desire to have a nest of children with the same bloodline as her. Then, he completely destroyed this hope, and then rekindled it. But now, he actually started to hate those children who had yet to appear. As long as they never appeared in this world, did that mean that he would not have to bear the risk of losing Gu Mingming? Anyway, Qi Xian had already been snatched back, so they did not need to pay Cole any ransom, right? Gu Mingming sighed and said, "Leah." Lee's lips were pressed into a straight line. He did not say anything else, and just avoided Gu Mingming's gaze. He did not want to anger Gu Mingming at this moment. Not even the slightest bit. Gu Mingming tightened her grip on Lee's hand. Originally, after snatching Qi Xian back, I had planned to give up on searching for the 7 treasures. But now, I have a new idea. Elvis and Leah frowned, their palms sweaty and their lips tightly pursed. Gu Mingming knew what they were worried about, but the more she did not explain herself, the more uneasy they would be. She might as well state her thoughts clearly. She believed that they would understand. Chapter 11-13. Gu Mingming paused for a while before continuing. There is only one set of the 7 treasures in this world. As long as both of you use one each, then no one will be able to gather all of them to open the doors of time and space. Gu Mingming's words made sense. The tear of the beast deity was in Gu Mingming's body. If Elvis and Leah used the heart of the desert and the spirit of the rocky cliffs to activate the Beast King bloodline, then anyone who wanted to open the doors of time and space could only choose to kill the 3 of them to obtain the 7 treasures. One Beast King could already look down on the entire beast world. When 3 Beast Kings gathered together, it would basically be the game mode of a pay-to-win warrior. They could ask arrogantly, who else? The iron triangle formed by Gu Mingming, Elvis, and Leah was the most indestructible and stable relationship in the beast world. It was impossible to destroy them one by one. No matter which one of them was attacked, the other 2 would definitely come to their rescue immediately. So, it was simply a fool's dream to think of obtaining the 7 treasures from them. Once Gu Mingming voiced out her idea, Elvis and Leah immediately exchanged glances and their eyes lit up. That's right, their rationality had been blown away by the news of Gu Mingming will leave. They could not think of anything and fell into a huge whirlpool. But in a crisis, danger and opportunity coexisted. As long as they could snatch the remaining 3 treasures before Cole finished setting them up, they would have the upper hand and gained an absolute advantage. Even if they could only grab 2, it could be said to be an absolute advantage. Elvis circled his arms around Gu Mingming's waist and hugged her lightly. He kissed her forehead. Ever since I met you, I've started to be overcautious. I've even forgotten that taking the initiative is my style. Li's thoughts were more meticulous and persistent. He brought Gu Mingming's little hand to his lips and kissed it. Leave this to me. Gu Mingming nodded and replied, yeah. For the past 2 years, Leah and Elvis had been keeping a low profile and only focused on Gu Mingming. They just wanted to live their simple lives in peace and had long forgotten their grand ambition of uniting the beast world for so many years. However, even if they did not cause trouble, trouble would never let them go. Blindly avoiding them didn't seem to be able to keep the peace. Since that was the case, why not make a big fuss? If their family of 3 became Beast Kings, they would like to see who would dare to play tricks in front of them. This night, Leah and Elvis could not sleep for the first time in a long time. Not worry, but excitement. The 7 treasures, which he had always rejected, suddenly became something that he had to obtain. They wanted to make Gu Mingming stay and ensure that no one in this world would dare to be presumptuous in front of her. Obtaining the 7 treasures seemed to be a way to settle things once and for all. The next day, after Gu Mingming woke up, Elvis and Leah decided to go out at the same time. Elvis continued to stock up on food for the winter, while Leah made arrangements to search for the 7 treasures. At that moment, Gu Mingming was not used to being alone like this. In the past, one of them would always be by her side. The pot was filled with the meat that Leah had cooked, and Gu Mingming scooped a bowl for herself. Gu Mingming was the only one at the 6-seater table. I used to eat alone, so I didn't think there was any problem. Only now did he understand that solitude was also a luxury, because first he had to experience being accompanied and cared for. Chapter 11:14. Mandy. Gu Mingming was rather surprised because the 16 valued females had a kind of adoration towards her that was similar to fans towards their idols. They liked her very much, but did not dare to get close to her. Unless Gu Mingming took the initiative, they would always approach her, as if they were afraid of causing trouble for her. Mandy placed her hands behind her back and appeared rather uneasy. She took small steps towards Gu Mingming and said, when the Great Witch Doctor went to look for Ian in the morning, he said that I can come and play with you. Play with a child? Gu Mingming chuckled and looked at Mandy like a child who had received candy, as if playing with her was a reward. Actually, her fox was just afraid that she would be bored at home alone, so he sent Mandy over to accompany her, right? Gu Mingming took a bowl and handed it to Mandy, asking, have you eaten breakfast? Mandy shook her head, blushing slightly. I was preparing to eat when the Great Witch Doctor went over, but he said that he had prepared a lot of food for you in the morning and that I can come and eat with you. So, although our Ralph learned some cooking methods from Great Leah, the taste is not that great. So, Mandy instinctively swallowed her saliva. She looked at the big pot of fragrant stewed meat on the table in front of Gu Mingming, her eyes filled with desire. Gu Mingming waved her hand and said, it's good that you haven't eaten yet. Come and eat with me. Mandy agreed readily and happily sat down diagonally opposite Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming chuckled. The smell left behind by Elvis and Leah on the stone bench was a declaration that this was the master's seat and she could not sit there. And the seat diagonally opposite Gu Mingming was the one that Wabi-Ai had sat on before. The smell was also very domineering, and Gu Mingming was probably the only one in the beast world who had the guts to sit there. And the seat diagonally opposite was more fluid. Oratin, Barit, Ian, Fei Rue, and the other guests had all sat there before, so Mandy automatically sat there. Gu Mingming did not say anything and just scooped a big ladle of meat into Mandy's bowl. Li's cooking is especially good. Eat more. Mandy smiled sweetly. She took the bowl from Gu Mingming and took a bite, before letting out a satisfied sigh. Gu Mingming could clearly see the word happiness on her face. As Mandy ate, she said to Gu Mingming, great messenger, I heard the witch doctor ask Ian something about the love of the sky when I left. Ian didn't seem to want to talk about it. Gu Mingming paused and looked up at Mandy. You have already mated with Ian? Mandy smiled shyly and nodded. Yes, we did it the day before yesterday. As she spoke, Mandy turned around. Between her two shoulder blades was a soaring eagle owl. It looked as if it was passing through a mountain stream, its gaze sharp and unstoppable. This was probably his most confident appearance. Gu Mingming chuckled. Congratulations. Mandy smiled sweetly and said, I still have to thank the great messenger for this matter. If you hadn't agreed, Ian would definitely have rejected me. On the day of mating, Ian told me that he had actually liked me long ago. However, as the previous master of the Eagle Owl tribe, he had responsibilities and obligations that he could not shirk from. Hence, he could only suppress his feelings and said that he had wronged me. He even apologized to me. Chapter 11:15. Mandy immediately became nervous. She pursed her lips and asked timidly, Great messenger, are you angry at him? Gu Mingming smiled and shook her head. I usually rebuke him on the spot. I won't settle scores with him later. Mandy heaved a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. I was still worried. Ian was different from the other males in the beast world. He was probably the only one who would rebuke Gu Mingming other than Wabi-Ai. He was not afraid of her strength and identity like most males, nor was he blindly subservient like those males who had special thoughts about her. His loyalty could be compared to Barit's, but he would not treat her in a state of absolute obedience like Barit. Ian was the type who would help you even if he rebuked you. He was the type who would do anything for you while scolding you. Gu Mingming had thought that Ian would not say any sweet nothings with his sarcastic mouth. She did not expect him to apologize. Looking at Mandy's bashful expression, she must have been flirted with quite a bit. TSK, you bird. You still have two faces. However, Gu Mingming did not expose Ian. After all, Mandy's family was different from hers and Sandy's. Mandy's family already had 27 partners. Under such intense competition, as a bad friend, good friend, Gu Mingming naturally could not be a burden to Ian. Did you just say that Leah went to find Ian to ask about the love of the sky? Gu Mingming changed the topic. Mandy nodded. Yes, but Ian seemed to be avoiding it and did not want to talk about it. Yeah, it was naturally the right thing to ask someone who could fly about the sky. Ian's attitude was that he did not want to talk about it, not that he did not know. That meant that Leah did not find the wrong person. With Ian's brain, how long could he last under Lee's hands? Yeah, it had been a long time since she saw the black-bellied Leah online. Gu Mingming suddenly pitted Ian. Is the love of the sky what the great messenger is looking for? Mandy tilted her head and asked. Gu Mingming nodded as an answer. Mandy smiled and said, Then I'll go back and help the Lord Messenger persuade Ian to tell the witch doctor everything he knows. Gu Mingming put down her chopsticks and looked at Mandy. Mandy, why don't you just call me by my name like Sandy? Great messenger sounds so awkward. Can I? Mandy's eyes lit up. She felt like a little fan who had suddenly gotten her idol's private WeChat ID. Gu Mingming nodded. Yeah, of course. Gu Mingming? Mandy's eyes sparkled as her lips curled up uncontrollably. She called out Gu Mingming's name softly. Yeah. Gu Mingming responded, nodding and smiling. Mandy held her face in her hands and screamed. Just like a fan. Gu Mingming was actually quite surprised. After all, Mandy had joined St. Nazaire for more than a year. Although she rarely stayed in St. Nazaire, it was not to the extent that she would be so excited just by calling her name. After Mandy calmed herself down, she also felt that she had been very rude. She put down her bowl with a red face and said, Messenger, Gu Mingming, I'll go back first. You're not eating? Gu Mingming looked at the remaining half bowl of meat in Mandy's bowl and asked in confusion. Chapter 11:16. Mandy ran off in a flash, and Gu Mingming could not stop her in time. Shaking her head in exasperation, Gu Mingming let her be. After Mandy's antics, Gu Mingming's unfamiliarity with being alone faded away. After clearing the bowls and chopsticks, Gu Mingming returned to the cave to retrieve 2 pieces of snake skin. Wabi-Ai had brought them for her, so that she could change into 2 sets of clothes. But the snake's skin on her body belonged to Snake, and she did not want to take it off. So these 2 pieces of snake skin had been left unused. Now, they could be put to use. The wooden pail that Fei Rui had helped Gu Mengmeng wash was already completely dry. Gu Mengmeng tied the snake skin loosely to the wooden pail to act as a strainer, then opened the seal of the stone basin. She used a large stone bowl to pour the fermented grape juice onto the snake skin, filtering the juice before placing the pulp at one side. Gu Mengmeng slowly poured the juice into the 9 large basins. By the time she poured the 3rd basin, Elvis and Leah had already returned. The moment they entered the cave, the 2 of them were taken aback. Elvis went forward to carry Gu Mengmeng, while Leah took the large stone bowl from her. "Why didn't you wait for us to come back and let us do it?" Leah asked as he copied Gu Mengmeng's actions of pouring the grape juice onto the snake skin and filtering it into the wooden pail. Elvis grabbed Gu Mengmeng's little hand and placed it into his mouth, licking the sticky juice off her fingers. Gu Mengmeng giggled from the itch. "Anyway, it's boring to stay home alone, so I did something to pass the time. Sigh, I will go wash my hands." But Elvis did not let go. He tightened his grip on Gu Mengmeng's waist. "I can lick it cleaner than you can wash it." Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis speechlessly. "Stop fooling around." Elvis gently bit Gu Mengmeng's fingertip. "I haven't seen you for an entire morning. Be good and let me get closer to you." "Dirty." Gu Mengmeng blushed. But Elvis laughed. He kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face. "My xiaomeng is so delicious. How can it be dirty?" With that, he sent Gu Mengmeng's little hand, which was stained with grape juice, into his mouth. He sucked and sucked, his deep gaze fixated on Gu Mengmeng's face, making her blush. However, Elvis seemed to be infatuated with the feeling of teasing her so much that she felt shy and at a loss for what to do. The more he sucked, the more exaggerated it became. In the end, it felt like an action movie. Gu Mengmeng quickly retracted her hand, her face so red that it looked like blood was about to drip out. Not daring to look at Elvis again, she could only change the topic to Leah. "Mandy came to have breakfast with me this morning and said that you went to look for Ian to ask about the love of the sky." Leah nodded. "Yeah, I just wanted to give it a try. My luck is not bad. He must know, but he doesn't want to say." Leah nodded and replied, "MMM." Then, seeing that the wooden barrel was already filled to the brim, he removed the snake's slough and used the sealed lid that Gu Mengmeng had prepared beforehand to cover the wooden barrel. He moved it to the other 2 wooden barrels that were already filled and said, "Have lunch first. I will do the rest after I finish cooking." "Actually, I can do it." Leah pressed Gu Mengmeng's hand to his lips and kissed it. "Your males are still alive. How can I bear to let you use this pair of beautiful hands to work? Don't make my heart ache. Be obedient, MMM." Gu Mengmeng was helpless. She mumbled softly, "I will be groomed into a useless piece of trash by you guys sooner or later." Aside from the topic, all right, today's update has ended. See you tomorrow, MMM. Remember to leave a message with 5 stars. Then, remember to hand over the tickets if you have them. Chapter 11:17. Hearing Gu Mengmeng's complaints, Leah smiled instead. He pinched Gu Mengmeng's little nose. "It would be best if we can pamper you so much that you can't even breathe when you leave us. That way, I won't have to worry about you suddenly disappearing." TSK. Gu Mengmeng wrinkled her nose. She didn't insist on filtering the grape juice herself. Leah transformed his hands into claws and then back into hands. His hands were so clean that they were not stained by dirt. When the sunlight shone on them, it was as if his skin had been tanned until it became transparent, giving off a pinkish glow. Gu Mengmeng didn't have a hand fetish, but she really liked Leah and Elvis's hands. Both of their hands looked especially nice. MMM, if their fingers were intertwined, that would be an extremely beautiful scene. Thinking about that, Gu Mengmeng sniffed instinctively. She mustn't have a nosebleed again. Otherwise, she didn't know how the 2 of them would deal with her. Not long after lunch, Mandy dragged Ian to Gu Mengmeng's cave. Gu Mengmeng looked at the solemn Ian and Mandy, who kept urging them, and roughly understood what was going on. Ian looked at Gu Mengmeng for a long time. "Must you find the love of the sky?" Gu Mengmeng thought for a moment before nodding. Ian looked at Mandy again. In the end, he couldn't resist her nagging. Then find a male from the bird tribe to be your partner. Ah, Gu Mingming was shocked. Luckily, Ian had already made it with Mandy. Otherwise, Leah and Elvis would probably be strangling him by now. Ian pulled Mandy to sit at the long table at the entrance of Gu Mingming's cave. He stood behind her and placed his hands on her shoulders. His face was filled with helplessness. I heard that the love of the sky is on the highest peak of the Moda Mountains. That place is so tall that it pierces the clouds and is abnormally steep. Ordinary orcs can't even reach that height. Even birds may not be able to fly up to that height. The Eagle Owl tribe used to be one of the birds guarding the mountain. But because the climate was too harsh and it was difficult for them to reproduce, the number of females in the tribe decreased until none were left. Ian remained silent for a long time before continuing. The Eagle Owl tribe is a tribe that guards the lower altitudes of the Moda Mountains. As the guardians, we have never flown to the peak of the mountains. Even if he tried his best, he could only fly halfway up the mountain. So, if you want to go to Moda Mountains to retrieve the love of the sky, you must first find a vulture as a partner. Apart from them, there is no other race in this world that could fly so high. However, the vulture race prided themselves on being the people closest to the sky. They were even more arrogant than normal birds and would definitely not come down from the Moda Mountains to approach the land beasts. So, it's basically impossible for you to find a vulture as a partner. This was a vicious cycle. If you wanted to go up the Moda Mountains, you would need a vulture to fly you up. But vultures could only be found on the Moda Mountains. Since the Eagle Owl tribe used to guard the mountain, they should be very familiar with them, right? Can't you accompany me and pass the message? Gu Mingming asked. Ian's face darkened, and the emotions in his eyes were hard to decipher. His brows were tightly furrowed, as if he was holding back something. After a long time, he finally spoke. In order not to be exterminated, I brought my tribesmen to seek refuge in St. Nazir. This is equivalent to betraying all the guardians of the Moda Mountains. They will not leave the Moda Mountains to chase after us. But if we go any closer to the Moda Mountains, all the birds on the mountain will attack together and tear the people from the Eagle Owl tribe into pieces. Digression. Do you remember my babies? We have an explosive update on the 24th. At midnight that day, there will be at least 100,000 words of updates. Chapter 11:18. That's why you are not willing to tell Leah about this? Are you afraid that I will force you to go with me? Gu Mingming asked. Ian shook his head and said, When I sought refuge in St. Nazir, I said that as long as you take in my tribesmen and help us survive that winter, my life will be yours to command. If you must go find the love of the sky, I will bring you there even if I will be torn to shreds. But Ian tried his best to curl the corners of his lips into a bitter smile and said, Because of my decision, the Eagle Owl tribe has become the shame of the Moda Mountains. I don't have the face to go back and face my former friends. I clearly remember that you came to seek refuge in St. Nazir when you were at your wit's end. You just wanted your tribesmen to live on and did not do anything heartless. Why are you so ashamed to face others? Gu Mingming was indignant. She could insult her friends however she wanted, but why should others despise her? Ian lowered his head and said, The Eagle Owl tribe is not the first and will not be the last. But only the Eagle Owl tribe left the Moda Mountains and gave up their duty to protect it. To the Moda Mountains, the Eagle Owl tribe is a traitor, a deserter, and a betrayer. Gu Mingming tilted her head and said, Do you know me? Ian looked up and looked at Gu Mingming as if she was an idiot. It was rare that Gu Mingming did not rebuke him. She pointed at her own nose and said, Doesn't the bird tribe view serving the beast deity as the highest honor? Since that's the case, isn't serving me, the messenger of the beast deity, closer to the beast deity and more loyal to him than flying foolishly in the sky? Ian looked at Gu Mingming and suddenly had a feeling of speechlessness. All roads lead to Rome. Being loyal to the beast deity is not the only way to defend a mountain range. Gu Mingming patted Ian's shoulder and said, To let the beast deity see your loyalty, the first requirement is for you to stay alive. If you die in the Modem Mountains, the beast deity will not be able to see it no matter how horrible your death is. He will be very busy. Unknowingly, Gumengming's words were like a seed that sprouted in Ian's heart. Then, it gradually grew into a towering tree, absorbing all the haze that had been weighing on his heart for over a year. He had sought refuge in the Saint Nazir tribe, where the messenger of the beast deity was. He was merely using a more direct method to continue offering his loyalty to the beast deity. Perhaps he hadn't pushed the Eagle Owl tribe to the point of no return, right? Ian curled his lips and looked up at Gumengming again. He felt that she was exceptionally pleasing to the eye today, but he could not help but praise her. I didn't expect to hear something human from you one day. TSK, heartless. Gumengming rolled her eyes at Ian, but she was not really angry. She just held her chin and looked at Ian, asking, "Is Moda Mountains far? How long does it take from St. Nazir?" Ian said, "It took us 9 days to get here. If we travel on foot, it will take at least half a month." Gumengming's fingers tapped lightly on the edge of the table. Half a month. Just the journey back and forth would take a month. Almost half of the rainy season had passed. If they left now, they would definitely not be able to return before winter. Chapter 11:19. All right, it was a simple word, but it carried the weight of a promise. Ian did not know what position Gumengming held at his heart. Was she the messenger of the beast deity respected by the Eagle Owl tribe, and even the entire beast deity, or was she a friend whom he could sacrifice for? He only knew that Gumengming was a very special existence. No matter what happened during normal times, as long as she said the word, he would risk his life to accompany her without a second word. With the matter settled, Ian did not stay any longer. He held Mandy's shoulders and said, "Let's go back first. Don't disturb others' meals." Mandy looked at the meat in Gumengming's pot with envy. She had wanted to eat more in the morning, but in order to help Gumengming persuade Ian, she only ate a small bowl before leaving. Now, that pot of meat might not even be enough for Leah or Elvis, so she was too embarrassed to stay for a free meal. She stood up and followed Ian out. After 2 steps, she stopped and turned back to look at Gumengming. She called out softly, "Gumengming, MMM?" Gumengming looked up at Mandy, using a single room to ask her what was the matter. But Mandy smiled brightly and waved. "I'm leaving, goodbye, oh." Gumengming was at a loss. Then, she heard Mandy say to Ian in a soft but excited voice, "Did you see that? I called the great messenger's name, and she answered me." A crow flew past Gumengming's head, leaving behind 6 large dots after Ian and Mandy left. Leah took over the bowl and chopsticks from Gumengming's hands. He put down the chopsticks and changed to a small spoon to feed Gumengming personally. Elvis lifted her by the waist, and Gumengming fell into his arms. This stance, there was a demonic aura. Leah looked at Gumengming with a grin. "Mingming, do you think our family will have a new member soon?" Gumengming instinctively rubbed her tummy. "Not so soon. If I don't get the love of the sky, will the 2 of you make me pregnant?" Elvis held Gumengming's hand that was on his tummy. "Don't act dumb. Children are never considered family members." "Why?" Gumengming slammed the table and exploded. Why couldn't her child be considered a member of her family? Was there still justice in this world? Elvis chuckled, rubbing her little head and comforting her, because when they grow up, they will mate with other females and form a family. They cannot stay in our family forever, so children cannot be considered as family members. Gumengming thought about it. Yeah, she treasured her son, but she was not so perverted as to not allow her son to get married and tie him to her side to be a bachelor for the rest of his life. Sigh, the pig that he raised would eventually have to steal someone else's cabbages. He had to accept this as soon as possible. Gumengming nodded and said with a little melancholy, "Oh, so our family only consists of you, me, and Leah?" Facing Gumengming's disappointment, Leah raised his eyebrows. His expression did not change as he continued to smile amicably. "Yeah, there are only 3 of us. It's a little too small, right?" Gumengming nodded instinctively. She had originally thought that her family was rather strong. With her, Elvis, Leah, Huda, and his brothers, there would be even more little foxes and wolves in the future. However, it turned out that her son could not even be considered a member of her family. How depressing. Chapter 11:20. Her hair stood on end for the first time. Gu Mengmeng felt that Li's smile was too scary. She shook her head. No, I don't want to take in a vulture as a partner. Leah chuckled. That's right. The vultures live in the harsh Moda Mountains all year round. Their bodies are naturally stronger than ours. Moreover, they can fly. Apart from your beast pressure, no one can push them down from the sky at that height. So even if we challenge them to become partners, Elvis and I may not be their match. Moreover, if you fancy one, Elvis and I can become partners without the challenge. Gu Mengmeng cupped Li's face and stopped him from speaking more and more exaggeratedly. I don't want to become partners with a vulture. You're thinking too much. Li's mouth was pinched into a fish's mouth by Gu Mengmeng. His bewitching eyes matched with his adorable lips, gave off a conflicting sense of cuteness. Gu Mengmeng smacked her lips and kissed him. Don't think too much. You and Elvis are enough for me. Our family doesn't need other males. Li's temper melted from the kiss. His tone unknowingly softened. The vultures rarely go down the mountains, but that doesn't mean they have never gone down before. In the past 1,000 years, they once went down to Sauter to meet the leader at that time. No one knows what they talked about then, but the vultures' looks were described vividly. Leah gently pressed down Gu Mengmeng's little hand that was pinching his face and said, his long brown hair is like the flowing water of an ancient lake. His slender and muscular physique is a perfect work of art forged by the harsh climate of the Moda Mountains. It is forged by the cold winds above the clouds and has its own lofty and unyielding character. They walk calmly in the Sauter tribe. That is because they have no fear because of their power. Just a glance from their sharp eyes would make others shudder in fear. They would automatically retreat and try to find a place to hide themselves. With that, Leah sighed. The Snow Fox tribe is such a proud tribe. How good-looking must they be to be able to pass down such a legend for hundreds of years? Meng, I suddenly have no confidence in my own appearance. What if you really fancy a male vulture? Gu Mengmeng shook her head and sighed. Didn't you confidently tell me that there is no one better looking than you in this world and that I should just look at you? Why are you saying this now? Leah glanced sideways and said worriedly, back then, I felt that the vultures never set foot on land and you would never see them, so I was naturally the best looking. Who knew, Sai? Gu Mengmeng leaned forward and kissed Li's face, saying, no matter how they look like, in my heart, you and Elvis are nothing. You said yourself. Leah peeked at Gu Mengmeng from the corner of his eye and said proudly, yes, 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 I will. Gu Mengmeng smiled helplessly before snuggling back into Elvis's arms. Hubby, say, since the vultures are so powerful, why don't we bring them all back to St. Nazaire after we get the kiss of the sky? Just like the Eagle Owl tribe, they could be incorporated into our Air Force. No, Elvis's rejection was resolute, without a trace of hesitation or hesitation. Chapter 11:21. I haven't forgotten how you drooled and acted like a hooligan when you first saw my human form. Elvis pinched Gu Mengmeng's little face. What did you say then? Touch and kiss me even at the risk of drowning. Mem? Gu Mengmeng laughed dryly. Don't mention the past. Let go with the wind, but Elvis did not buy it. He continued to smile coldly and continued. You've said it yourself. You're a veteran member of the Appearance Association, and your motto is appearance is justice. You're handsome, so whatever you say is right. Gu Mengmeng was speechless. How could she reveal all her secrets? TSK, TSK, TSK. She felt good just because of her cheap mouth, but she regretted it the moment she said it. So, do you think I will allow a tribe whose looks gave Leah such a sense of danger to join St. Nazaire and create a destructive crisis for myself? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. No. Elvis chuckled. He tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose in approval. So smart. Gu Mingming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Hubby, I have to clarify something. I treated you that way because I was single at that time. Flirting with a handsome guy while single is not called acting like a hooligan. It's called creating an opportunity for love. Yeah, Leah and I have already grasped the opportunity you gave us, so we don't want to give it to anyone else. Elvis said softly. Gu Mingming was exasperated. I already have partner. I won't give anyone else such an opportunity. Elvis stared into Gu Mingming's eyes. After a long while, he smiled. I know what you said is true. I don't need the vulture tribe to verify it for me. I will block all temptations for you. You just have to continue liking Leah and me. Gu Mingming facepalmed. She felt that her image was hopeless. Leah and Elvis were sure that she was a female demon who lusted after men. Sigh, forget it. She wasn't wronged. After all, even if time could be turned back to the past, she would still act like a hooligan towards Elvis. Otherwise, wouldn't such a good husband be someone else's now? How could that work? Gu Mingming realized that Elvis was usually a man of few words, but when faced with such a situation, both his EQ and EQ would immediately come online to block her. But forget it, she did not have any other thoughts anyway. Whatever he said, it would only make things worse if they continued discussing. In the end, Elvis was certain that she was looking for a male vulture as a partner. But the heavens had pity on her. She had not even seen a single strand of hair from the vulture tribe, and she had already been made into a scandal. She felt even more wrong than Doe. Leah tapped the area between Gu Mingming's brows. That smile clearly indicated that he and Elvis had the same thoughts and rejected Gu Mingming's suggestion. Gu Mingming wrinkled her nose and made a funny face at Leah, not saying a word. Leah said the problem now is how to reach the highest peak of the Moda Mountains. From what Ian said, not all birds can go up there, let alone land beasts. Actually, there was a very simple solution. That was to let Gu Mingming sleep and ask the beast deity. But no one would bring up this suggestion now, because Elvis and Leah were extremely afraid that Gu Mingming would directly transmigrate back to that dream realm. Chapter 1122. Since they could not ask the beast deity, the problem of how to ascend the mountain became a dilemma. But luckily, they still had a whole winter to slowly think about it, so they were not in a hurry to come up with an answer. The rainy season in St. Nazaire was extremely busy. Males and families hunted and preserved meat in a frenzy, while those that did not mate would follow Barit and Orton out to search for the potatoes, sweet potatoes, and lotus roots that Gu Mingming had taught everyone before. The rest of them tanned beast skins and divided them according to their grades, before distributing them equally to all the females in St. Nazaire. Gu Mingming had brought everyone to do it once during the winter 2 years ago. Although Gu Mingming was not around last year, there were many old tribesmen in St. Nazaire, so they did not delay the preparation of supplies while defending against the enemies. This year, everyone was more experienced. With Gu Mingming holding the fort at home, Elvis traversing through the territory, and Leah strategizing in the tribe, everything was more orderly. Ever since Gu Mingming made Mandy call her by her name, Mandy seemed to be hooked by her soul, running over to Gu Mingming's place every day. There was nothing special, just following behind Gu Mingming to watch others preserve meat or give pointers on how to prepare and store vegetables. Counting the days, first snow should be here soon. Gu Mingming was sitting at the entrance of the cave, looking up at the sky when she saw an eagle owl flying close to the ground. When it reached Gu Mingming, it transformed into a human and said, "Great messenger, Frankston's witch Dr. Joshua wishes to see you." Joshua? Gu Mingming thought for a while and asked, "What is he here for?" The eagle owl shook its head and said, "I don't know. He won't tell me even if I ask him. He only said that he wishes to see the great messenger and won't leave until he sees you." Gu Mingming originally wanted to say that the witch doctor could look for him if he had something to do, but thinking about how Leah was already having a hard time arranging the distribution of resources for the winter, and also having to worry about obtaining the love of the sky from Moda Mountains, as well as being on guard against Cole's interference, even the smartest person would be exhausted. She sighed and said, "Ask him to come in." Yes. The eagle owl bowed, then transformed into a beast and flew against the wind. Not long later, Joshua appeared in front of Gu Mengmeng. To be honest, Gu Mengmeng was stunned by this first-level ape. Not because he looked outstanding, but because he was wearing clothes. Yes, clothes. It was not the beast skin skirt that Elvis and Leah usually wore, nor was it the strange clothes that Leah wore during the ritual. Instead, it was a simple long robe. Judging from the material, it was made of deerskin. Calling it a robe would be an exaggeration. It looked like two pieces of deerskin with a head, tail, and limbs removed and cut into a rectangle. One end was sewn with thread, leaving only a collar. After putting it on, a 4-finger-wide belt was made out of something that looked like tree bark. The shoulders of the clothes were slightly wider than his body, and when the waist was tightened, many of the shortcomings of his body were covered up. Joshua, who was originally weaker than high-level orcs like Elvis and Leah, now had a scholarly and refined aura. He did not look like a barbarian, but more like an ancient person. This was the first time Gu Mengmeng saw a male wearing clothes that were meant to cover his body after coming to the beast world. She could not help but feel a sense of familiarity. Chapter 11:23. Greetings, great messenger. Joshua bowed respectfully. Gu Mengmeng nodded as a form of greeting, but did not go near Joshua. After all, she didn't forget that when she passed by Frankston on her way back from Zacharias, Frankston's leader, Hanston, and this witch doctor, Joshua, had offered to escort her. At that time, Hanston had said that he didn't dare to have any other thoughts, but this level 1 Joshua had stubbornly insisted that he wouldn't give up. Warver Man got jealous. Now that Elvis and Leah were not at home, Gu Mengmeng did not want to cause any unnecessary trouble. After all, first it was Fei Rue, then it was Victor, and then there was a male vulture. If she got involved with this Joshua, she would not be able to do anything for the entire winter. She would just be soaking in a vat of jealousy every day. So, Gu Mengmeng maintained a certain distance from Joshua. She asked with a neutral expression, "Is there anything you need from me?" Joshua nodded. "Winter is coming soon. I wish to request to stay in the Great Messenger's cave." If it was in the past, Gu Mengmeng might have asked why he wanted to stay in her cave. But Barit had already caused trouble once before, so Gu Mengmeng naturally understood that Joshua wanted to stay in the cave to store food for her. Holding her forehead, Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "Elvis only stored enough food for our family to survive the winter. He did not prepare any for you." In other words, she did not lack food and did not want you. Joshua did not seem surprised by this answer. After all, they were a neighboring tribe. It was no secret that Saint Nazir had a way to store food. Joshua nodded. Then he tilted his head and smiled. "Then, does the great messenger lack beast pets? The kind that is the closest to your way of thinking and behavior?" Gu Mengmeng chuckled. She shook her head. "Joshua, I have no intention of recruiting new males into my family. So don't waste any more time on me. Go find a new target. I can wait." Joshua did not seem to take Gu Mengmeng's rejection to heart. He just lowered his head. The males in the beast world are all stubborn. They either don't love or fall in love for the rest of their lives. Gu Mengmeng was very clear about this. However, she no longer wanted to carry someone else's burden for the rest of her life. It was too heavy. Gently caressing the back of her neck, Gu Mengmeng smiled. "My stance is very clear. I don't like you. If there's nothing else, please leave." Joshua shook his head. "I want to join Saint Nazir as a witch doctor." Unmated males had the right to decide which tribe they wanted to live in. Witch doctors were a precious resource that was second only to females. Almost all tribes fought over them, and there was absolutely no reason to reject them. However, if they accepted him, wouldn't it mean that they had tacitly agreed to his waiting? Chapter 11:24. Oh, by the way, other than me, there are 17 females in our tribe. Other than Maya, who is a half-orc, the rest are all complete females. As Gu Mengmeng said, she held Mandy's arm and smiled. "Here, she is Mandy, a female leopard. I personally crowned her the first beauty of the beast world a year ago. If you want to mate, why don't you consider wooing Mandy? After saying that, Gu Mengmeng felt her face hurt. She sounded like a pimp. Mandy glared at Gu Mengmeng shyly. I promised Ian that I will only accept him this year. If you want to woo me, you have to wait until next year. Joshua smiled at Mandy and said, Nice to meet you, Mandy. That was considered as a greeting. Then, Joshua's gaze returned to Gu Mengmeng. I can accept the test to join the tribe. I am willing to accept it no matter what the test is. I must join Saint Nazir. Join Saint Nazir as a witch doctor? Sure, you're most welcome. Leah hurried back the moment he heard that Joshua had come to meet Gu Mengmeng. But the moment he arrived, he heard this fellow confessing to Gu Mengmeng. He did not appear because he wanted to hear Gu Mengmeng reject him personally. But even after Gu Mengmeng made it so clear, he still pestered her. Leah patted Joshua's shoulder lightly and said, The witch doctor's test shall be conducted in the witch doctor's way. I just patted 4 types of medicine on your shoulder. If you can find all 4 types of medicine by this time tomorrow, you will pass. I will welcome you on behalf of Saint Nazir. If you can't find them, then you can scram back to where you came from. Don't be an eyesore in front of me again. Joshua tilted his head and sniffed the scent on his shoulder. For smells, the number was correct. But these 4 smells were especially faint and hard to distinguish. But in order to join Saint Nazir, Joshua still decided to accept this challenge. Passing the test as a witch doctor meant that the test given by Leah was not too harsh. Okay, Joshua answered and turned around to search for the medicine that he had sniffed out first. After Joshua left, Gu Mengmeng leaned on Lee's shoulder. What did you pat on his shoulder? Are you sure he won't be able to find it? Leah chuckled. Don't worry, I will not allow flies to keep flying around you. Gu Mengmeng laughed and said, Didn't you say you have a lot of things to settle? Why are you back so early? Leah carried Gu Mengmeng in his arms and said, Come back to kill flies. Gu Mengmeng replied, It's just Joshua. I can handle him myself. Leah replied, If you have to handle everything, why do you still need Elvis and me? Gu Mengmeng was speechless. She could only wrap her arms around Lee's neck and lean into the hollow of his neck, allowing him to carry her back to the cave. Mandy followed him for 2 steps, but upon receiving Lee's warning gaze, she could only turn around and leave angrily. Only then did Leah heave a sigh of relief. His Mengmeng was too outstanding. What should he do if she could win over both genders? He had finally gotten rid of Sandy with much difficulty, and now there was Mandy. Could it be that those with Mandy in their names all had a special liking for his Mengmeng? TSK. As expected, she could not leave Gu Mengmeng's side with Elvis, or else it would be hard to guard against her. Chapter 1125. Leah didn't tell Gu Mengmeng which 4 drugs he had applied on Joshua's body, and Gu Mengmeng didn't press him. Gu Mengmeng didn't have any special feelings for Joshua, so she didn't want to give him any hope. Turning a blind, it was the most heartless and appropriate method. There were many things to settle in the tribe, especially after confirming that they were going to the Modem Mountains during the monsoon season. Leah had even more things to settle, but everything he did was for Gu Mengmeng. If he neglected Gu Mengmeng because of those things, wouldn't he be putting the cart before the horse? In his eyes, nothing was more important than Gu Mengmeng. So since he was back, Leah didn't plan on going out again. He just sat at the entrance and started curing the meat like the other males. After all, if he didn't do it, Gu Mengmeng had to do it. Elvis, the great god of dark cooking, was forbidden from touching any food that wasn't edible. And he couldn't bear to part with Gu Mengmeng's hands rubbing the coarse salt crystals. Seeing that Leah was preparing the food, Gu Mengmeng automatically stood behind him and massaged his shoulders. You must be exhausted after so many things happened recently. Leah enjoyed Gu Mengmeng's service and smiled. The most tiring thing is that I can't look at you every day. I have to resist the urge to leave everything behind and come back. It's so tiring, but winter is coming soon. By then, I will have nothing to do and just have to look at you every day. Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Lee's shoulders from behind and rested her chin on his neck. In the blink of an eye, this is the third winter we have spent together. Leah shook his head. The first? Huh? Gu Mengmeng didn't understand. Leah said, in the first year, you mated with Elvis, and I was an outsider. In the second year, you circled around Qi Xian for the entire winter. Elvis and I were both outsiders. This year, you have to focus on accompanying the two of us. After all, this is the first winter for the three of us as a family of three. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. All right, we will stay in the cave for the entire winter. I will accompany the two of you. Leah nodded and said, Elvis and I have already expanded the layout of the cave. Before winter, that stone table will be moved into the cave. The storage room has also been expanded to make it easier for you to throw potatoes at us. The floor is also covered with soft new soil, so you won't trip or hurt your feet when you chase after us. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. Why would I throw potatoes at you? Leah glanced sideways with a tinge of disappointment in his eyes. You won't be screwed up this year? Gu Mengmeng blinked her eyes and looked at Leah in confusion. Leah sighed. I was very envious at that time. I thought I would finally have the chance to be smashed by you this year. That year. Gu Mengmeng thought for a long time before recalling that in the first year of mating with Elvis, Elvis had said that she had gained weight. She was so angry that she chased after Elvis and threw potatoes and sweet potatoes everywhere, causing him to dodge in all directions, but not a single thing fell to the ground, and he caught all the food she threw at him steadily. She hugged Leah and rubbed herself against him with all her might, smiling. Are you an idiot? Why would you be envious of being beaten up? Leah allowed Gu Mengmeng to mess around with him. He smiled indulgently. I have masochistic tendencies. I only do this to you. Aside from the topic, today's update has ended babies. Susu is working very hard to save chapters. Really working very hard. So, are there any rewards? Something like a monthly ticket, or something like that. Act cute and roll on the ground for tickets that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.